Reading Higurashi now for the second half of the day. I think the mic here is good. Let's see, assume gamer posture. Yeah, it's fine. Actually, I'm gonna move it down slightly. Alright, let me click. Oh, before your ears get blasted with that loud music, let me turn it down. There we go. So we started chapter 8 a week ago in the first chapter 8 Higurashi stream. Should I listen to this again? No. So yeah, let's see, do you want to recap? Do we need a recap? We got some Takano background. I believe we did. That's mostly what I remember. I think that's mostly all we got, didn't it? Wasn't it? Takano meeting with that group that she was with, or associating with. Childhood Takano stuff, if I remember correctly, if I'm interpreted correctly. It wasn't too much. I don't think it was that much either. It was two kind of quick sections. I'm curious when it is we're gonna get back, if ever, with the kids, with the group. We also, no tips were included in us finishing these, so maybe we just don't get tips today. Or today. Well, maybe today, but for the whole chapter, perhaps. Deviate from the norm. Feels weird to do afternoon reading. Afternoon Higurashi reading. Different energy. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I need to say. No. Like I said, we get the Takano background, which is, I don't want to say like ideal, but interesting, especially with the point that we were at with Takano at the end of chapter 7. We start to see a bit more potentially of the reasoning why she's doing what she's doing. Because obviously in chapter 7, it's like, oh, she just is doing this thing. And she's the / big bad, right? And then we get a bit more. I'm not going to necessarily say, I won't go as far as say being a Takano defender or anything, but we start to see like early on Takano, and then like reason why she's proceeding with this plan, I guess you could say, right? It's the best way I can describe it. Let's go. Allow me to introduce you. This is Major Takano. I'm gonna turn it up slightly more. Takano, Major. This is Dr. Kiyusuke Kiyusuke Irie. I tried. Sound out. Yeah, I gotta turn this up a lot louder than normal. Okay. Hello, I'm Irie. Irie seemed extremely nervous at our first meeting. He probably thought I was in charge of some suspicious organization. Please relax. Call me Takano. Thank you. Thank you for having me here. I really appreciate it. Please have a seat. A model, lower middle class citizen was a good way to describe Kyusuke Irie's demeanor. One could also say he was the stereotypical type of person to get conveniently discarded after those crafty elders use their seniority to constantly pick on him. He certainly doesn't seem as cunning as I am, but that doesn't mean he isn't ambitious. Like me, he's a young person who dreams of accomplishing something great and leaving his name upon generations to come. While he acts humble in person like this, his articles were actually progressive as well as aggressive. The gap between the two was quite intense. I've read the data concerning this Hinamizawa syndrome. What did you think? Well, it's really quite the shock. It's very possible that this is something that steps onto the dark side of today's medicine, but I can hardly control my intellectual excitement in knowing it's a mystery that has yet to be solved. Hearing that made me chuckle. Irie is more than interested in Hinamizawa syndrome, which is good enough for me. She had been through the ringer with far too many people to reach this day, so her honed intuition could tell. She would get along well with this man. Even if he isn't useful to me, he won't cause any problems. For both me and my sponsor, he's the best person possible for the job. I was shocked too. To imagine a man of your experience and knowledge is just wasting away in the medical office without any responsibilities or work to accomplish. I have to say that was a grave loss to the medical field. Irie laughed. He probably thought I didn't know, but I had received detailed documents on him, so I knew why he was exiled from the limelight despite his rare talent and achievements. He displayed extraordinary skill working under a neurosurgery expert, and everyone expected a bright future from him, but he was kicked out due to an ethical controversy. Irie's pet theory was that the antisocial behavior of individuals could be explained by brain disorders. He believed that no one in this world was born a villain, and that they were all just poor patients in need of treatment. He proposed that they were all proper and normal when born, yet as they matured, psychogenesis and various exogenous factors caused brain disorders that made them into villains. Therefore, what those evil people need isn't punishment, it is treatment, and if their diseases are treated, they'll become good citizens again. That manner of thinking actually fell in line with the Confucian belief of innate human goodness. According to this theory, humans are born with capacity for altruism toward their kind. It is only afterward that they learn and acquire cruelty. Irie believed that acquisition was the result of brain disorders. The human brain creates human thoughts. Therefore, if one becomes emotionally ill, that means the brain is ill. So if the brain gets treatment, they will recover emotionally too. That field was called psychosurgery. It's fallen out of practice in the current Heisei era, but the surgical techniques were applauded until mid-Showa, especially since it produced spectacular results on a chronic mental patient that was said to be incurable. The man who invented it even won a Nobel Prize. That was how revolutionary it was. Humans think, that's why they become ill. Everyone knows that's why those who overthink matters are prone to mental illness. When the organ that thinks and debates grows ill, humans deviate from social behavior. That part is called the frontal lobe. Put simply, psychosurgery is surgery performed to operate on the frontal lobe. This kind of surgery doesn't require removing the whole epicranium. A small hole is drilled through the cranium and a special scalpel is inserted down to cut it. It's not a major surgery, just a technique for quickly operating on the precious frontal lobe. Indeed, it was revolutionary in its simplicity. All the severely ill mental patients miraculously recovered, so the technique spread across the world quickly. Those with obstinate and chronic mental illnesses, the severely ill trapped in deep, inescapable depression, all of those could be saved by this technique. Throughout history, humans have come up with many different religious and magic tricks to heal emotional injuries. So, needless to say, the idea of being able to treat them with a surgical technique was truly revolutionary. Irie admired psychosurgery and pushed forward in the field of surgical techniques to treat human souls. However, from the modern human rights standpoint, severing a portion of the brain simply because someone is emotionally disturbed is absolutely out of the question. People gradually started to think differently and said that psychosurgery was inhumane. The frontal lobe controls how people think, but it is also the part that makes humans act human. There were quite a few cases where that cut caused drastic, irreversible changes in the patient. Eesh. A baseless happiness born from lack of thought, a change in personality, a loss of interest in everything, major mood swings due to a lack of control over one's emotions. Some even lost part of their memories. Of course, some don't even survive the surgery. By the mid-1960s, use of psychosurgery declined. Also, due to the development of psychotropic medicine, surgery was hardly performed anymore anyway. Yet, some people still believed in the idea, continued to perform the surgery and gather clinical data. They wanted people to recognize the value of the technique once again. Some of these surgeries were performed without consent. One theory is that in Japan alone, there were thousands of people who woke up from general anesthesia, only to find part of their brain had been removed. Today, to perform such a surgery without a patient's consent is considered totally unethical, but it was different at the time. For one thing, the idea that doctors required prior patient consent was proliferated in the modern Heisei era. I'm going to say I'm saying that right, hopefully. Therefore, people at the time didn't think it was that big of an issue. It was only later that people started to argue that it was inhumane. Finally, a decision was reached and the curtain closed with the rejection of psychosurgery. Later, the Japanese Society of Psychology and Neurology passed the resolution to end psychosurgery. After that, psychosurgery was banned throughout Japan and made a forbidden subject of Japanese medicine. Irie was the leading person in the field of psychosurgery. He continued to advocate its effectiveness and results. Therefore, he was treated as a war criminal who practiced inhumane medicine, and he was exiled from the public eye. However, that doesn't mean he changed his beliefs. He still believes that immoral behavior is caused by brain disorders, and the secret of treating them is, in fact, hidden in the brain. So the existence of Inamazawa syndrome, caused by parasites living in the brain that control human emotions, actually affirms this theory. If it's alright with you, I would love to accept this position. Of course, given Irie's history, he would never turn down this offer. Despite his mild-mannered appearance, Irie was possessed by a mighty ambition. There was no way he didn't desire a chance to complete research that would prove himself to the medical society that ostracized him. I'm handing him that chance on a silver platter. Thank you very much. I knew you'd accept. We're very lucky to have an expert like you. You'll be a great help. But are you okay with me being the director? Wouldn't it be better for you to hold that position, Takano-san? I'm just a simple doctor. Being in charge of other people is... Don't worry. I'll give you my full support. Our sponsor wanted to pick a civilian. Besides, wouldn't you like to be called Director Irie? He. She knows how to manipulate him. Let's go. Well. But, Irie laughed to hide his embarrassment. We're building a research center in Hinamazawa. Publicly, it'll be a clinic. So, with your consent, Dr. Irie, we'd like to call it the Irie Clinic. Lord of my own castle? That's more than I deserve. You'll also be placed under the SDF, so you'll be registered as a medical officer with them. Since you'll be my superior, you'll be a lieutenant colonel. Lieutenant Colonel Irie. How does that sound to you? Smitten by a title. I'm not a military man. I'd rather refrain from being called Lieutenant Colonel. Director is already a frightening title as is. Oh my. He's getting a chance to research brain parasites, plus being given the title of director of a new clinic as camouflage. Plus it comes with staff and funding. He'll even have support from the Defense Agency and the Ministry of Health and Welfare, as well as a research lab with state-of-the-art equipment. No wonder he's laughing so excitedly. However, there are some risks, too. Since he'll be involved with the secret research, he has an obligation to keep it a secret. Also, he's going to an area plagued by a mysterious and bizarre disease. There's no guarantee he won't contract it himself. But Irie is too young to even think about those things. Aware of all the risks, he quickly signed the contract with the ambition to have people recognize his talent once again. This is, God, there's like I know this is maybe gonna go over a lot of people's heads, but like there's this idea in, especially like most professional sports, but like the one I care most about, like in the NBA, like basketball, like when like a star is considered like a flight risk kind of like thing, like their like personality kind of sucks, or you know they're like a diva or something off the court, but let's say their talent is really good, they're kind of viewed as like damaged goods, and when they become a free agent, like a team might want to try to swoop in and be able to get them, for lack of a better term, like on the cheap, kind of, because then you can maybe rehabilitate. They could rehabilitate their image. They can perform well because they're talented or whatever. They got skills, but also maybe they don't require as much as payment. Like their contract might be not as high because maybe they're viewed around the league as, you know, not worth the risk, right? And that's almost kind of the situation here, where his reputation was at a low point because of the field he was so interested and spent so much time in. And so it's clear that she was able to just kind of get him quite easily under her. Even though he is exactly what she needs in this moment, and mutually he probably looks at them as them giving a chance to him, even though he was technically probably viewed as damaged goods. And he's like, hell yeah, I'll take this, even if there is a risk of him having to go to Hinamizawa and everything. So just an interesting parallel to kind of like associate there. When I saw him sign the contract, I finally relaxed. I knew he would agree to join us, but at the same time, I was afraid of the chance that he'd refuse. Selecting a director proved more difficult than expected, and the only candidate Takano paired well with was Irie. So if Irie refused to take the position, then frankly, she'd be placed in an even worse situation. Now that Irie has agreed to take the position, research on Hinamizawa syndrome can finally begin. The research center, or rather the clinic, will be completed next spring. The Ministry of Health and Welfare and the Defense Agency will send the best equipment and staff, plus an abundant supply of funds, not foods. Then, finally, our research will begin in earnest. Everything is going well. Of course it is. I put so much effort into making sure things went smoothly up to this point. Okay, that's it. Congratulations, Director Irie. Major, contract has been signed. Thank you. I look forward to working with you. Director Irie. I look forward to working with you too, Takano-san. I hope we can get along. I'll be devoting my best efforts to this. No, thank you. Let's both give our best. Now the position of director has been filled. Everything is set. Moon. Whoa! That's great. Just great. Congratulations, Takano-san. No, Major Takano, isn't it? This is all possible thanks to your assistance. I must give my thanks to all of you. Oh, don't mention it. But we should save our congratulations until you finish your research, huh? Oh, it's that music. That sound that reminds me so much of like Your Turn to Die. For some reason. You're only at the starting line, aren't you? Exactly. I'll be devoting my every waking moment to this research. We can hardly wait to see the result of what Dr. Takano couldn't finish. Whoa! Well, now, Sensei. Let's not talk about business today. Let's have a toast to congratulate Takano-san and the Irie Institute. Hello, everyone. I'm Nagata, from the Ministry of Health and Welfare. I would like to say a few things before the toast. Ah, Takano-san. Make sure he works hard, okay? His research center will be supporting the institute. If you need any technical support, just call him. Make him work hard? No. I have to thank you for your support. I'm Takano. Pleased to meet you. Takano-san, let me introduce you to these gentlemen. Meet Toмотake-kun and Okanogi-kun from the Self-Defense Force. They're your backup from the SDF. I'll let them introduce themselves. There's the man. Nice to meet you. I'm Toмотake. I've been commanded to serve as auditor of this project. I look forward to working with you. The funding of for our research is largely coming from the SDF. It's only natural for the SDF to assign a watchdog to make sure reasonable research is taking place. However, someone in a position like that should be my opponent. Why was someone in that position invited to this private party? Does that mean this auditor is on my side too? Seeing that thorough groundwork, I couldn't help but feel the strength of having a sponsor all over again. I won't be staying in Inamazawa. I'll only come by routinely to check on the progress of the research. That's too bad. Inamazawa is a beautiful place with clean air. Please come visit us anytime, outside of work too. Thank you. It would be very unfortunate if you were to kill me someday. Is it that ridiculous thought? I guess I will. If he really is an auditor, I should maintain a good relationship with this man. He'll hold the key to all future adjustments of our funding so long as we continue drawing it from the SDF. I'm Okanogi. Nice to meet you. He's the commanding officer of the Mountain Dogs, one of our unconventional warfare units.
ひなみ沢に常駐し、三佐を直接サポートします。
They'll be stationed in Hinamizawa to provide you direct support, Major.
ボディーガードみたいなものと思っていいのかしら。
Should I consider you my bodyguard then?
要人護衛、機密保持が主な任務です。
Their principal duty is guarding VIPs and preserving secrets.
三佐の直接の手足となりますので、どうかこき使ってやってください。
Think of them as your hands and feet and work them hard.
よろしくお願いします。
Thank you. Toмотake seems to be an honest type for a military man, but this Okanogi person looks the complete opposite. I mean, look at that smile on that face. His main job is to preserve secrets, but I bet he's also good with espionage tactics like counterintelligence and information control. Yes, that would explain his demeanor. Since the SDF is funding our research on Hinamizawa syndrome, of course, this is considered a military operation. Therefore, this research has to be done in secret. That's why a unit like this is necessary. Besides, it's very reassuring to have someone capable of combat working under me. I should maintain a good relationship with him too. Okay. Enough introductions. Come on, Toмотake-kun, you can relax too. Let's put aside our ranks today and have a toast. While this is supposed to celebrate the establishment of the Irie Institute, Irie himself isn't here. But that is his job after all. Irie is simply a puppet to fill a seat. Of course, I expect him to help me a little with his expertise, but he's ultimately an outsider. This was supposed to be a gathering where I would show my appreciation to those who helped me establish the Irie Institute, but it has turned into them thanking me for all my efforts. I'm always the one to pour alcohol for others, but today people are pouring alcohol in my class. The new participants were trying to make me happy, and all the top people talked to me casually. They all praised my hard work and my efforts. My research is now recognized by many institutions, and I'm ready to spread my wings open wide. And all the people who are expecting some returns once the research accomplishes something are trying to curry favor with me. But right now, I'm just very grateful, regardless of their motives. Let's have a toast to wish the best of luck to Mio Takano-kun, and also to the new Irie Institute. Alright, Sensei. Please lead the toast. It's like a dream. I know. This is just the beginning, and I shouldn't be satisfied with this alone. But just for today, I can forget about everything else and enjoy the celebration. I'm not a heavy drinker, but the drinks taste good tonight, and the more I drink, the happier I get. Ah, this really is wonderful. To be called Major by Toмотake and the others is wonderful too. That's the rank my grandfather had during the war. That means I finally caught up with my grandfather. This is only the beginning. From here on, I intend to reach what my grandfather couldn't. This is the best night of my life. I ended up leaving to fix my makeup. I'm filled with elation. I need to feel fresh air to calm myself down. My heart is about to explode because I'm so happy. The gathering is taking place a little distance away from the main building. The restroom is in the main building, so I need to walk across the hallway. A beautiful and well-maintained Japanese garden is visible from the hallway. It's raining. I usually don't like rain, but I don't mind it at all today. I feel like even the raindrops are congratulating me. The cool air feels pleasant on my hot skin. It took me a moment to notice how unsteady my footsteps had become. Maybe I drank a little too much. It isn't like me to drink more than I can handle. Although this is a party, I don't want to embarrass myself, so I decided to cool off a little by looking at the beautiful Japanese garden. I found an elegant chair set up on a red carpet nearby and sat down on it. Since I was with the associates until now, I was forced to constantly be on guard against embarrassing myself. But now that I was alone, I could let go and truly relax. When I look up to the sky, I realize it's still raining hard, but in the distance the horizon is a little lighter. Maybe it won't be raining for much longer. Well, that's normal. Rain stops eventually. No matter how cold it is, or how hard it's raining, rain stops eventually. I saw a pair of sandals and an umbrella, almost inviting me, so I took them into the garden. The tasteless laughter coming from the party sounds far away. I tilted the umbrella and looked up to the sky. I felt the raindrops hit my face, and gazed up at the sky for a while, forgetting all about my hair getting wet. I thought the rain would cool down my boiling heart, but as my body got cold, I started to feel miserable. My bare feet were all swollen, and the throbbing pain I felt made them seem twice their normal size. The gravel road continued forever. I didn't even know what direction I was headed in anymore. I could no longer hear my pursuer. I had probably lost him by running through the woods like mad. Oh, we're back when the younger moments when she was getting chased, escaping. Nice little rain, weather transition. I respect it. My body was covered in scratches. I finally started to feel the pain from that. I felt both cold and hungry. There was no place nearby to take shelter from the rain. I was just on a little path in the woods. My worst fear was that I could end up heading back towards the orphanage after bolting and losing my sense of direction. I had crushed that man's finger. I didn't think I bit it off, but I was sure it would leave a scar. Taking that into consideration, it was very clear to me that what kind of torture awaited me back in the orphanage. Therefore, I'd have to reach the house of love and mercy. If only it had been daytime, then I could easily have found the right way to go. However, with this rain, there was nothing I could do. But I couldn't stop. I had to keep walking until I reached something. I wondered if Iriko and the others had escaped safely. I didn't know how many people came after us, but at least one came after me. In other words, it meant they had a better chance. Did they reach the house of love and mercy? Were they drying themselves with soft towels? And if they still remembered me, would they save a towel for me too? I felt so cold. I wanted to find shelter and sit down, but there was nothing of the sort. I saw a tree that looked like I could take shelter under it, but the branches and leaves were dripping with water. It was then that I realized the sky was gradually getting darker. Would this day end in rain? There were no street lights where I was. Soon enough, it would be totally dark. Then, I wouldn't be able to walk any further. I just wanted to sit down, even if it was raining. But if I did sit down, I probably wouldn't be able to stand up again. So I endured. If I hadn't escaped with Iriko and the others, I wouldn't have had to go through such misery. But compared to what I had to go through at the orphanage, this was nothing. Thinking about that was the only way to make myself move. But when I thought about that, it's true that this freezing cold rain was far better than my life at the orphanage. But that was only when compared to the life at the orphanage. Was it better than the normal lives of normal kids my age? I didn't even need to think about that. When my parents were alive, although we weren't rich, we led a normal life. The gentle smiles and forgivable selfishness. The sound of my mother cooking breakfast in the morning. The sound of a newspaper being folded. Precious memories like that. I didn't need anything else. I had plenty of friends. I had fun at school. I didn't like my teacher, but I liked studying. I had everything I needed. That was enough for me. I never complained. I never did anything bad. So why was this happening to me? Everything went downhill after that train accident. The die of fate kept rolling a 1. The die never showed its good side to me. If the accident was my fault, then I could have accepted it. But it wasn't. I wasn't even there. I waited for my parents at home. I liked going to the mall with them. We always had a meal at the restaurant in the mall. I always told them to let me know if they were going to the mall. But on that day, they went without me while I went to my friend's house to play. My friend wasn't in, so I went back home. I didn't see anyone at home and found a note that said they were going to the mall. I regretted going to my friend's house. I waited at home. They didn't come home. They were still gone by dinner time. I was getting hungry and got angry with my parents for leaving me. I thought they were having dinner at the mall restaurant without me. If I hadn't gone to my friend's house, I would be eating dinner at the restaurant too. I loved the little flags that came with the kids' meals. I was collecting those flags. Yes, I was. I was trying to collect 20 of them, thinking that once I collected 20, something wonderful would happen. But I couldn't collect 20 of them. I only needed one more. If I had one more, maybe the accident wouldn't have happened. Very sad memory of a flag from a kid's meal. Kept waiting for my parents to come home from the mall. I was hungry, so I started to eat some dried fish. If I ate too much, my mother would find out, so I was careful not to gorge myself. Then the phone rang. I assumed it was from my parents. I answered the phone in an angry manner. But it wasn't them at all. What happened to the house? We had rented it, so maybe somebody else had already moved in. What happened to my room? What happened, what about my desk and all the flags that were in the right middle drawer? If it wasn't my house anymore, then where was I supposed to go? Even if it remained my house, my parents wouldn't be there to welcome me or protect me. Just because I didn't have my parents to protect me, the whole world became so cruel. How could anyone take me away from the house I was used to living in, just because my parents were gone? Why didn't they just leave me alone? They asked me many things. They tried to confirm many things. But how could I have understood any of the forms they gave me? I was asked a yes or no question. I had no choice but to answer yes. I don't know why I'm just now putting this back together, but and fully realizing it. Like, I definitely noticed it, but I didn't like connect the thing, and I don't know if the game is gonna, or if the story is gonna do anything more interesting with this, or maybe it's supposed to just be somewhat related. But I only just now put together, like, oh, Takano, orphan, and most of, at some point in the story, most of the kids in the group are also Sans parents, right? I don't know if that's gonna mean anything, or if it is, or if it was even 100% intentional or whatever, but it is just a interesting link there, right? Anyway, I was asked a yes or no question. I had no choice but to answer yes. And before I knew it, I ended up at the orphanage. It was beyond heartless. I didn't do anything wrong. I was just a little girl. I had to sign so many papers, but why this? The warm and gentle world ended suddenly without advance notice, and I was thrown into the cruel and merciless world alone. Was this the real world? Did I have any allies at all? Just because my parents died and I didn't have any relatives, the world had become so sad. When is the die going to come up with a 6 instead of a 1 to make up for the continuous series of the latter? Tears were pouring down my cheeks. The salty taste further saddened and irritated me. I couldn't do anything but cry. But no matter how hard I cried or pitied myself, the cold rain wouldn't warm my body or save me. I didn't even know where I was or in which direction I should go. Eriko showed me the map to the House of Love and Mercy when we were planning our escape, but we only learned the shortest route. I was completely lost. But strangely, after I finished crying, I felt a groundless strength within myself. I once learned that tears wash away particles in the eyes, but there is a different purpose to them too. Tears also wash away what's in the heart. I clenched my fists and forced my feet to move. I headed in the direction that I believed to be correct on the gravel road. The rain was still pouring, and it was getting darker and darker. I roared at the sky amidst the rain. My sadness was turning into anger. You stupid god! Baby Takano. Why? What have I done, what have I done? I don't know why I got confused there. What have I done to deserve this? What did I do? I didn't do anything. I was just living a normal life, that's all. So why this? My daddy told me there are good things and bad things in life, but neither lasts for long. That means this misery won't last that long either, right? I won't be all alone in this miserable place forever, right? Isn't that right? As I looked up, I felt the raindrops hit my face. There is no God. I knew that in my heart. But such disbelief wouldn't save me. If I believed he was there, I should have been saved. No, I needed him to be there. Was he going to answer me? I heard thunder. Then I realized he was there. He was there, and he was listening to me. In his eyes, everyone was supposed to be equal, and he was listening to me.
もう私は十分辛い思いをした。
I've gone through enough.
十分すぎるくらいに。
More than enough.
これまでがそれに見合うくらいに幸せすぎたなら、この不幸を甘んじて私は受けることもあるかもしれない。
If I was too happy before, then I could take this misery.
でもそんなことなかった。
But I wasn't.
私は普通の生活をしてきたに過ぎない。
I was living a normal life.
それが幸せじゃなかったのかと言われたら、確かにそれは幸せだったのかもしれないけど、
If you ask me if I was happy, then sure, I was.
だからってそれの裏返しがこれではあまりに見合わない。
But this is what I get in return? That's not fair at all. I heard thunder again. He was listening. I continued.
もし
If
私の運命が神様の何かの間違いだというのなら、
this fate of mine was your mistake,
もう私を解放して。
then let me be free.
これで私の不幸を終わりにして、私を今日までの不幸に見合う幸福に導いて。
Please end my misery and let me be happy again.
でももし
But if
これが私に与えられた運命で、このまま私に生涯を終えろというのなら、
this is, in fact, my fate, and I'm supposed to live this way until the end,
こんな人生いらない。
then I don't want it.
私を殺してよ。
Kill me.
その雷で私を打ちつければいい。
Kill me now with your lightning.
落雷で殺されてしまうという最後の不運を私に見舞えばいい。
Just finish me off now.
さあ、試してみなさい。
Come on.
私の人生を無慈悲に奪ったように、その雷で無慈悲に私を打ち据えればいい。
Kill me ruthlessly right here and now. I heard thunder again. It was loud enough to make me shiver. Normally, I would just hide in the house and wait until the thunder went away. But on that day, I wasn't afraid.
さあ、殺せ。
Come on, kill me.
田無美代子はここにいる。
Miyoko Tanashi is right here.
私のお父さんとお母さんを奪ったように、私の命をここから奪え。
Just like you killed my parents, take my life too! The heavens replied to my provocation. The heavens took aim at me, a lowly human who dared sling constant, insolent insults at them. That was my wish. I opened my arms. He's God, so he wouldn't miss me. However, I guess even God makes mistakes sometimes. Although he's supposed to be fair, he had been unfair with me.
さあ、狙え。殺せ。
Come on! Kill me!
私を天に連れて行け。
Take me to heaven!
だがもし私を殺し損ねたなら、
But if you fail to kill me, then
私の運命をひっくり返してみろ。
try turning my destiny around! Bang!
哀れな子。
Pitiful child. A flash from heaven. I thought I smelled something burning just before it hit me. The sheer force knocked me to the ground. It was a strange experience. It was something that had just happened, but it already felt like it happened many years ago. I had no idea how long I was down for. I smelled something odd. The bad stench woke me up. When I looked, I saw that a huge tree behind me had been split open. Its leaves were smoldering. I looked up and saw sparks in the darkness. I couldn't understand what just happened. I just stood there. The thunderbolt had struck. It didn't strike me, it struck the tree behind me. I didn't get to die. He was telling me to keep walking in the woods in the cold rain. I won my bet with God. I bet my life. I bet my life against the lightning and thunder. It could have killed me instantly, but he missed, so he had to fix my life. I looked up at the sky, laughing and bragging that I was still alive. I heard thunder again. It was acknowledging its loss. Come on, God. Save me. I've won the bet, so save me from this misery. I stood there. I waited for God to do something while the rain poured down on me. But he didn't answer me again. I couldn't hear the thunder anymore. Again, I felt the warm tears pour down my cheeks. What was I thinking? If there was a God in heaven, he wouldn't have let anything like this happen to me. My miserable life was the proof of God's non-existence. The darkness was about to swallow me utterly. Would I have to sleep out there? God must have wanted me to die slowly in this cold rain instead of granting me an instant death by lightning. I wish the sun would go away. I wish the sun would never rise. I wish that, as the woods had grown completely dark, my existence would be hidden by that darkness. I wish that I could just disappear. Had it been an eternity, or was it a matter of seconds? I couldn't even tell time in such darkness. It was then that I saw something. It was a light. I noticed it only because the woods were so dark. But was it really there? Had it been there this whole time? I felt like the light was inviting me towards it. It was a fluorescent light. I didn't normally like fluorescent lights because I always thought they looked cold. But I didn't feel coldness from that white light. I made myself believe that the lights was a guide sent by God. I had to believe, otherwise I wouldn't be saved. The light reflected in a puddle. It wasn't a muddy puddle. It was a puddle on asphalt. I had made it out of the woods and was on a paved road. The light was a street light. Being on a paved road didn't really resolve anything. It was just a country road. It was a road that went through the woods, so there were no houses, no shops, and not even a single car going by. There weren't too many street lights on the road, so it was still very dark. My feet touched the asphalt. It felt so different from the gravel I had been walking on earlier. It felt almost merciful. My feet had grown used to walking on gravel, but after feeling the softness of asphalt, I never wanted to go back to the former again. I could only choose between heading left or heading right. I was grateful to God for leading me to this asphalt road, but I wished that he had given me a little more guidance. Such a little bit of luck couldn't make up for all the unhappiness I'd gone through. And that was when I sensed his guidance. I saw another light in the distance. It was only on the right side. I headed towards it, and when I got there, I understood what it was. I was amazed to find it there. A telephone booth. Who would actually make a call in the middle of nowhere? A telephone booth in the countryside was rather unusual. There were plenty of red public phones all over, but I had always thought telephone booths only existed in big cities. It almost looked as though the telephone booth had been put there as a punishment for doing something bad. When I thought that, I felt bad at the lonely telephone booth. It reminded me of myself. Even if I went inside the telephone booth, what could I even do in there anyway? I already knew the answer to that question, but no matter what, I just had to get in there. The door squeaked as I opened it. There were lots of moths and other bugs fluttering about around the light. I usually hated bugs, but in that moment I felt like they were my friends, sheltering from the rain like me. There was no heater, but it was still very warm inside the booth. It sheltered me from the cold rain. Soon enough, I crumbled to the floor. The warmth from the fluorescent light embraced me gently, and I felt like it was telling me that it was okay to cry. But I had no more tears left because I cried them all when the lightning struck. Aching scratches covered my body. My calves were in pain too. Everything hurt everywhere, and I didn't want to get up ever again. I wished I could fall asleep. But if I did that, the staff from the orphanage might find me. The windows on the booth were high up, so if I sat down, I wouldn't be visible from the outside. But as it was the only shelter in those dark woods, the staff would be sure to check it. That was why I couldn't stay there for long. Telephone booths from back then weren't completely made of glass, so it was possible to hide inside one. Parentheses. My exhausted spirit understood that I had to move, but I just couldn't make myself. Maybe I was experiencing some kind of vision. I felt a strange calmness that I'd never experienced before. I didn't feel that I was myself. It was very strange. I thought that maybe I was killed by that lightning. I'd assumed I was still Miyoko Tanashi, but maybe I wasn't her at all. I seriously considered those things. Then I started to think that the telephone booth had something to do with it. Because God led me there. He couldn't have done so just because it was providing shelter from the rain. There had to be something else. I wondered what it was. Could there be something in the booth that could save me? But what? A telephone booth is used to make a phone call, but I didn't have any money. But then, I noticed something that looked like copper. My heart skipped a beat. The 10 yen coin I saw wasn't there before. Did I just miss it? I didn't think so. It must have just showed up. In other words, this 10 yen coin was guidance from God. He was telling me to make a call with that coin. But who? There's no telephone book. In that case, I could only call a number I knew. Did God want me to do that then? There was only one coin. I can only call one number, and I couldn't talk for that long. I had challenged God earlier, so it's just a matter of course to think that God was challenging me in return. I had only one chance, and he wanted me to test my luck with that chance. I left the phone booth and looked up at the sky. Then I yelled in my heart, "You're on, God!" I wondered who I could call. Who? My house? My parents were dead and I had no relatives. Even if I called, nobody would answer. Actually, the phone bill wouldn't have been paid for a long time, so the phone line would already be disconnected. My house was my lost life itself. My house was my lost life itself. No, the debris of my life. Calling home would simply be an expression of regret, which ran counter to the positive attitude of one trying to change their life. So surely using the coin to call my house was wrong, which meant I had to cast this 10 yen coin towards my future. Future? My future? What future anyway? Then I heard a huge thunderclap, which cleared my mind. In that clear state of mind, I saw something from the past. It was the last sight of my father, his final moments on the hospital bed. Though suffering from pain, he tried to tell me something very important.
もしもな、お父さんが死んだら、
If by chance I am to die,
高野先生を頼りなさい。
turn to Dr. Takano.
高野、ひふみ先生だよ。
Dr. Hifumi Takano.
言ってみなさい。
Say it for me.
高野ひふみ
Hifumi Takano?
そうだ。
That's right.
高野、ひふみ先生だよ。
Dr. Hifumi Takano.
高野先生はお父さんの恩師なんだ。
He's my former teacher.
きっとお前を助ける。
He will help you.
お父さんお父さんお父さんお父さん
Daddy! 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 Many doctors came into the room in a hurry. He wanted to tell me something else, but the doctor stopped him from talking, so it wasn't audible. It shouldn't have been, but it was to me. I heard it. I heard it, but I didn't want to hear him say it while suffering, so I pretended that I didn't hear. He said it while coughing. I heard it. They were numbers. I swallowed once. That's right. It was a phone number. He knew nobody would take me in because we had no relatives. He told me to get in touch with him, Dr. Hifumi Takano. He tried to tell me his phone number. Ah, what had I done? He tried so hard, using his last chance to tell me the most important thing. The thunder from earlier had made me remember it. The number I couldn't remember even once came out so smoothly. I dialed it in. This really was it. This was the number for my father's teacher, Dr. Takano. But my hand stopped just as I tried to put the coin in. What if I hadn't remembered it correctly? No, there was no need to hesitate. I had to believe in myself. This had to be the correct number. I had to dial it before I forgot it again. I picked up the phone and put the coin in. Beep! I heard the dial tone on the other end. At that point, I decided to kill myself if it didn't work. Whew. I could go back into the woods and wait for another lightning bolt. I could lie down and let the rain water drown me too. I could also fall asleep in the middle of the road and wait for a car to run me over. I made up my mind and put the coin in. I didn't hesitate any longer. Dialed the number at once. But I had to be careful. If you dial quickly, sometimes you can make mistakes. I was getting irritated, and that almost made the phone number go vague in my head. I dialed the last digit and heard some electronic sounds on the other end. I hoped that I dialed the correct number. I didn't know what to say to Dr. Takano if it did connect. Where was I? What was I supposed to do? What was I supposed to ask him? I didn't know any of these things. Making a call isn't cheap. One 10-yen coin could only buy me short time to talk. The line must have connected then. I heard a ringtone. I only had a short time once someone answered the phone. I thought for a moment that I should put the phone down. Then I could at least get the coin back. I could call back after sorting out my thoughts. But then, someone answered.
もしもし、
Hello?
高野です。
This is the Takano residence. I felt like I was suffocating. My memory had been correct. I couldn't tell the age of the speaker, but it was a grown man's voice. Anyone who was my father's teacher must have been quite old. Never mind that. I had to hurry and say something. Hurry, hurry.
あの
Are you...
高野先生ですか？
Are you Dr. Takano?
高野
Dr. Hifumi
ひふみ先生ですか？
Takano?
そうですが、どちら様ですか？
Yes? Who is this? He must have been suspicious. I couldn't blame him. A stranger was asking him about his name. Of course he'd get suspicious.
ごめんなさい。
I'm sorry.
私、田無って言います。
I'm Tanashi.
田無美代子と申します。
Miyoko Tanashi?
田無さん？
Tanashi-san.
はい。
Yes.
私の父に高野先生に電話しろって言われたんです。
My father told me to get in touch with you.
父は田無武光と言います。
His name is Takamitsu Tanashi?
田無。
Tanashi.
田無。
Tanashi.
ああ、田無くん。
Ah, Tanashi-kun.
ああ。
Oh, why should you do that? I remember him. His voice suddenly changed. Dr. Takano had remembered his old student.
私、娘です。
I'm his daughter.
お父さんに電話しろって言われて。
He told me to call you.
田無くんに何かあったんですか？
Did something happen to Tanashi-kun? Ah, not good. I was going to run out of time.
お父さんとお母さんが事故で死んじゃって、
My parents died in a train accident,
それで高野先生に電話しろって言われたんです。
and I was told to call you.
田無くんがお亡くなりに？
Tanashi-kun is dead?
そうですか。
I see.
二人とも？
Both of them?
それは本当にお気の毒です。
I'm sorry to hear that.
田無君は私が大学で講師をしていた時しばらく交流があったことがあります。
I knew him from when I was teaching at a勤
何事にも勤勉な良い青年でした。
He was a very hard-working young man.
結婚式に呼んでもらった時にあったのが最後だったような気がします。
I think the last time I saw him was at the wedding. Obviously, he didn't know I was born, but he remembered my father. That was truly a stroke of luck.
それで田無君は私に何と？
So, what did Tanashi-kun want to tell me?
えっと、
Well... I didn't know what to say. I was only told to call Dr. Takano. How could I tell him that? My time was running out. I felt more and more anxious by the minute. Phone calls are disconnected without notice, but somehow I sensed it. I only had enough time left for one sentence, so I decided to say one sentence filled with all my hopes.
助けてください。
Help me! Phone call got disconnected. Maybe I only heard part of what I said. I could only hope he was able to sense my despair. I couldn't hear anything from the receiver anymore, but I actually talked to Dr. Takano. I confirmed that Dr. Takano existed. He existed, and he remembered my father. If he grieved over a student's death, he would come visit my house. And he would find out I was sent to an orphanage. Then he would come get me. That's when tears flowed down my cheeks again. I thought that my life was hopeless. I never knew that finding even a grain of hope could make me feel so happy and strong. The voice I heard on the phone was so warm and dependable. My father must have thought about me for a long time in that hospital bed, and came up with a name that he could trust his daughter with. Dr. Hifumi Takano. So I could trust Dr. Takano. I had to believe that he would find me, but it might take more than just a few days. I'd have to wait patiently. A few days? A month? More? I could only wait patiently. Either way, I couldn't stay in the telephone box. The staff would easily find me there. I went out into the rain again, but this time the rain felt a little warmer than before. I had wished to die by lightning, but after that phone call, I was filled with hope and the will to live. I wanted to live, and that was why I felt pain all over my body. When I still wished to die, I didn't feel anything. I had to wait patiently until Dr. Takano came to pick me up. I had to get to the House of Love and Mercy. That would be the best place to wait for him. I didn't think the orphanage would tell him I escaped to the House of Love and Mercy. But the house wouldn't stop me from calling him. All I'd have to do was call him again and let him know where I was. But I didn't know where I could find the House of Love and Mercy. I couldn't see any signs anywhere, and I didn't even know what direction the orphanage I escaped from was in. But I couldn't just stop. I had to walk. I had to find shelter. I had to find someone and ask for directions in the House of Love and Mercy. I had to keep going, because I finally saw the light at the end of the tunnel. The chills and throbbing pain tormented me, but I couldn't die until I met Takano-sensei. I wished a car would come by. If it was someone who lived in the area, I could ask. But the police wouldn't do me any good. I was sure the orphanage had already called the police about our escape, and they wouldn't be forgiving. The police were sure to send me back to the orphanage. Either way, I wish that someone would show up. Otherwise, I'd have to keep walking on the asphalt in the darkness forever. How long did I walk? Still no car. Just as I couldn't help but think that maybe the world perished, leaving only me behind, a car showed up. I sensed the car coming up behind me, so I turned around. I saw their headlights approaching me. I thought for a moment, should I stand in the middle of the street to stop the car? It was so dark. I didn't think the car would notice if I just waved at it. But if I were to stand in the middle of the street, I could get run over. While I thought, the car was getting closer and closer. When I made the phone call, I panicked and didn't know what to say. So with this car, I'd have to think very carefully. If I couldn't think of anything, then I'd just let the car go. With those thoughts vaguely on my mind, I was incredibly surprised when the car slammed the brakes with a screech and came to a stop. Maybe I wasn't all there after the miraculous experience of lightning striking near me. I'd half lost my mind in those dark woods, so I probably wasn't thinking very straight. Because the car had stopped after recognizing me. In other words, the driver knew who I was. And the only people in that area who would recognize me were... Suddenly, a chill ran through my whole body. I started to dash away. I heard a voice calling after me. I no longer had the strength to run. My feet were trembling and I couldn't make them cooperate. I realized then that I shouldn't have sat down in the telephone booth. That was why I couldn't keep running. I was suddenly grabbed from behind, the collar of my clothes almost choking me. I heard fabric being ripped. I fell in a puddle and a staff member got on top of me. This time, his finger wasn't in my mouth. All I could do was struggle. Damn. As I did so, I remembered all the scary stories Irko and the others told me. All the torture the child who was caught had to endure. The drowned ducky punishment, the mashed caterpillar punishment, and the splayed piggy punishment. The names of those eerie-sounding punishments came to my mind. I screamed and struggled with all my might, but it was too late. I was shoved into the back seat of the car. Why couldn't they just let me go? Simple. They didn't want me talking about them to anybody. The staff were yelling and screaming while chasing me, but once we were in the car, they went silent. It was like the Grim Reaper had come to get me. Whether I liked it or not, I had to come to terms with the fact that my luck had run out. But I had called Takano-sensei, so I knew he would come to get me. I didn't know when that would be, but I knew it would happen someday. So, I wanted to live. I'd be saved if I lived. I couldn't even imagine the kind of punishment that was waiting for me. But even so, I said to myself, I have to live. I'd already found the light at the end of the tunnel. All I had to do was endure until I reached it. The car stopped. We had arrived at the front gate of the orphanage. The two staff members grabbed my shoulders so I wouldn't run. My shoulders were very skinny, so it hurt a lot. I was scared. Scared of what I would have to go through. We went through the door and I was finally sheltered from the rain. In a way, I wasn't sheltered at all though. It was the middle of the night and long past time to turn all the lights off. The orphanage should have been quiet. But I heard a noise. It was a strange noise. The noise of a shower. The noise of metal objects crashing into each other. Also the staff's yelling and screaming. A chill went down my spine. What could I possibly write down to fully describe this fear? A staff member knocked on the door of the storage room, and the door opened. The moment it did, an angry roar issued from inside. The sight leapt into my eyes. I couldn't completely take in the bizarre scene before me. 2 staff members were hitting a mat with bamboo swords while yelling violently. It was a mat used in, you know, the one you use when you do gymnastics. But why was it rolled up like that? The rolled up mat was tied with a string and was standing up in the corner. Staff members kept hitting it. Usually words are said to a person, but why were they yelling at a rolled up mat? The way they were hitting and yelling at it, it was as if they'd gone mad. But wait, I could see something sticking out from the top of the rolled up mat. This is so bad. It was, let me see, whose shoes were those? All of a sudden I froze and couldn't think anymore. One man stood in front of me. The man's pinky finger was wrapped in bandages. My eyes moved upwards from his pinky finger and met with his. The beast's eyes met mine, peering with intent to devour me. I squeezed out a voiceless scream. My voice didn't come out, so it was more like a goldfish opening and closing its mouth. The beast stuck his little finger in front of me and roared. I couldn't tell if it was a word or a meaningless shriek, but I was certain it was something abusive. I was scared. I didn't want to die. I wanted to live. I knew that Dr. Takano would show up to save me. That was why I had to live and submit myself to the fear. I'm sorry. The hand with the bandage grabbed my hair and dragged me along. All I could do was apologize and beg for forgiveness while hoping the beast had even a tiny bit of mercy in him. I was like a broken, apologizing doll. A mad doll that kept muttering apologies until its key wound down. I was their toy, shedding tears, coughing blood, and apologizing in place of clicking gears. I could see into the shower room while he dragged me along. The door was open, and I heard wailing from the inside. What I saw was very strange. There was a locker on its side in the shower. What an odd sight. A locker was taking a shower sideways. I never even imagined anything like it before. The locker was taking a cold shower while 2 staff members hit it with bamboo swords. That explained the metallic noise I heard before. The beast didn't want me to see that. He pulled my hair violently and twisted my neck so that I looked in the opposite direction. Then I realized. He didn't do that to stop me from watching that shower. He did it to make me look at something else. I saw a window in a courtyard. Usually it was too dark to see anything, but the lights were on, and the courtyard was very bright. Then I saw it. Inside of the hen house, I saw... redacted. What is that? That, and that. That hair was Eriko's. XXX! XXXXX! But why was she XXXXX? That was far too XXXXX. Scream. I'm sorry. I am sorry. I don't want to die. I know Dr. Takano's coming to save me. I know he is coming. I was taken to the staff bathroom. It stunk of ammonia. I saw a XXXX, which just doesn't fit in a bathroom. Why was this in the bathroom, I thought? He's not planning to XXXX me with XXXX, is he? No way. No. Tanashi. This is your punishment for breaking the rules, okay? Everyone must follow the rules. God, this music and I think there's faint dialogue. It's so eerie. It's so bad. Yeah, you can barely hear it over the music. If you don't, you get punished. Do you understand? I'm sorry. I'll never do it again. I'll do everything you tell me to do. I promise, I really do. Please spare me. Please spare me from that. No, that hurts. No. No. Well, damn. No good. Boop bum 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 bum. Alright, let's just keep going. How long have I been crying? I don't even know how long I've been comforted like this. My grandfather's hand is on my cheek to comfort me. I'm holding his hand lovingly and pressing my cheek against it.
落ち着いたかな？
Are you okay?
おじいちゃん
Grandpa? My grandfather put his other hand on my head. The warmth of his palms gradually calmed me down. Piles of documents were all around me. It was a mistake to sort through data while lying on a fluffy carpet. I must have fallen asleep and had a terrible dream.
うつ伏せに寝ると胸が苦しくて悪い夢を見やすいんだよ。
If you sleep facing down, the pressure on your chest makes it easier to have nightmares.
もうこんな時間だ。
It's getting quite late.
美代子は部屋に帰って寝なさい。
Why don't you go to sleep, Miyoko?
全然平気
I'm fine.
居眠りしちゃってたから眠気がなくなっちゃった
I took a nap, so I'm not sleepy anymore.
もうすぐで終わるの
I'm almost done.
だから終わらせちゃうね
So I'm going to finish up, okay?
明日も学校がある。
You have school tomorrow.
もう寝ないとまた先生にあくびを怒られてしまうよ。
You should go to sleep, otherwise you'll get scolded for yawning again. I've been going to bed late recently. Because of that, I yawn a lot at school. My teacher must have written a note to my grandfather.
大丈夫
I'm fine.
ちゃんと終わったら寝る
I'll go to sleep as soon as I'm done.
だから続きをさせて
So please let me finish, okay?
それにおじいちゃんも私に構ってちゃダメ
Besides, you shouldn't mind me. Also, I'm going to... I don't know if things had changed or what, but let me just... Just slightly more down, right? Okay, good. Did that save then? I've just noticed it. I don't think I changed anything personally over the span of... I just feel like this one's audio has been balanced differently. And not just the torturing there at the end wise, but like throughout this whole thing. Anyway, I'm fine. I'll go to sleep as soon as I'm done, so please let me finish, okay? Besides, you shouldn't mind me.
早く書斎に戻って論文の続きを書くの
Go back to your study and continue with your article. The day for him to present his findings is approaching. He's been working so hard, devoting himself to his research, but there's unfortunately a limit to what an individual can do. He needs a collaborator in order to go further with his research. He has to explain that his investigation could be the key to solving the mysteries of human behavior and make people understand just how important his work is. But this research is about a very complicated subject, so he couldn't seek assistance from just anyone. Someone will be able to help him one day. Believing that, my grandfather earnestly continued his research. I want to help him more, but all I can do is sort through his data and tidy up his materials. I also assist him around the house so he can concentrate more on his research. He always tells me how helpful I am, but that isn't enough for me. I will study hard, get into a good college, and learn many things, so I can actually be of assistance to his research. I'm a mediocre student right now, and I don't particularly like school, but I will do it. I want to help my grandfather. If his heart were to fail and he couldn't continue his research, I wouldn't hesitate to cut open my chest and offer my heart up for him. If he needs lungs, I'll give him my lungs. If any of his organs fail, I'll give him mine. There's nothing strange about those feelings. They're perfectly normal ones. For if he had found me even a day later, I might not have been alive. Or even if I lived, it would either be without my body intact, or with my mind lost to me. In other words, I'm alive because my grandfather came to save me. If he hadn't rushed to find me, I wouldn't be here. So I won't hesitate to give up my life for him. Moreover, I'd be more than happy to do that. Even though I want to be with him forever, human lives aren't immortal. Just like how my parents died. It happens so suddenly, without any warning. I'll never heal from my parents' deaths. But now that I have my grandfather, I'm not sad. However, his existence isn't eternal either. He may disappear all of a sudden for an unexpected reason, just like my parents. That's why I wish to be part of him. That way, no matter what happens, we will be together forever. I don't want to be alone ever again. I want to be with my grandfather forever. I want to help him forever.
わかった。
Okay,
じゃあこの資料の整理が終わったらちゃんと寝るんだよ。
then be sure to go to sleep after you finish this, okay?
約束。
Promise?
約束。
Yep, I promise. We pinky promised. After that, we smiled at each other and my grandfather went back to his study. The dried up tears are making my cheeks itch. I headed to the bathroom to wash my face and brush my teeth. I looked at my face in the mirror. None of my grandfather's features are recognizable on my face. Of course they aren't. We're not related. He must have a family too, but I've never heard about them. He doesn't seem to want to talk about that subject, so don't ever ask him about it. I don't care if he has real grandchildren or not. Even if I'm not related to him, I'm a granddaughter of Hifumi Takano. I'm not just a granddaughter either. I want to be more than that. I don't want a parent and child relationship, nor a lover's relationship. Nothing like that. I want something more certain that binds our souls. Something that not even a tragedy can destroy. I am Miyoko Takano, Hifumi Takano's granddaughter. Maybe it should be Mio instead. That's what my grandfather sometimes calls me. I want to succeed Hifumi's spirit. Since his name counts from 1 to 3, I want us to share that 3 and be the 4th in his line. Today, my name changes. I wrote that new name in the mirror. Mio Takano. What a wonderful name for the new me. Colonel, sir.
ご無沙汰いたしております。
Good to see you again.
高野くん
Takano-kun.
だからもう大差はなしだよ。なしなし。
Come on, no more Colonel stuff. No, no.
暮れに具合を悪くしたと聞いてから心配してたんだよ。
I was worried when I heard you were ill.
でも元気そうで何より。
You sure look great now. My grandfather always told me he doesn't have any friends. He used to tell me everyone died in the war. But that's not true. He has one very close friend. This is him. He's an elderly man my grandfather calls Colonel Koizumi. I don't know exactly where they met, but every time they get together, all they talk about is the military and the war. So I guess that's where they met.
みおちゃんも大きくなったね。
Look at you, Mio-chan.
今身長は何センチくらいになったんだい？
How tall are you now?
この間身体検査があったけど、
We just had a physical checkup the other day.
2センチ伸びました。
And I think I've grown 2 centimeters.
そうかそうか。
That's wonderful.
育ち盛りはいいの。
Good girl.
いっぱい食べて、いっぱい運動して、いっぱい大きくなるんだよ。
Make sure you eat well, play a lot, and grow big and healthy.
いいなあ、高野くんはこんなに可愛いお孫さんに恵まれて。
I envy you, Takano-kun, for having such a cute granddaughter. Mr. Kasumi knows that my grandfather and I are related, but he always calls me his granddaughter. That makes me very happy, so I poured a little more black tea in his cup. After I finished serving tea, I left with a bow. I want to stay and listen to them talk, but I guess my grandfather doesn't want me to hear stories of the war, so he always makes me leave. I left before I was told to, but having to leave doesn't mean I need to go to a different room. I just headed to the other side of this huge living room instead. Although I'm not right by them, there we go, I can still sit on a sofa and listen to their conversation. and if they need something, I can come help them right away. I try to earn points that way to prove I'm useful. I sat on a sofa away from them and started reading an encyclopedia. While doing that, I tried to listen to their conversation.
それはよかった。
That's great.
教授たちは都合が合えば再来週の日曜日にも早速来たいって言ってくれたよ。
The professor said they want to come over on Sunday, the week after next.
本当ですか？
Really?
ありがとうございます、小泉さん。
Thank you very much, Koizumi-san.
いやいやいやいや、
Don't mention it.
高野くんが書いたレポートがそれだけ興味深かったことの証左だの。
This just means the report you wrote was that interesting, Takano-kun.
かなり関心を持ってくれてね。
They're showing a lot of interest.
ノーベル賞ものの研究になるかもしれないと非常に受けが良かった。
They even said it's possible that this research could receive the Nobel Prize.
ノーベル賞だなんてそんな。
A Nobel Prize?
いや、お言葉だけでも恐縮です。
That sounds wonderful. My grandfather laughed. Since he laughed so cheerfully, something great must have happened. Mr. Kazumi must have shown the society the essay my grandfather was about to announce and gauge their reactions. And supposedly, they found it extremely interesting. That means they recognize the value of my grandfather's research. That makes me happy too.
しかし、いつも心配なのは、君自身がひなみ沢症候群に感染してしまってやしないかということだね。
But what worries me is that you'll get infected with the syndrome yourself.
君が自分の首をかきむしるようなことがないよう気をつけてくれよ。
Make sure you don't end up clawing out your own throat, okay?
ひょっとすると、私もすでに感染しているかもしれませんな。
Well, maybe I'm already infected.
でも、ひなみ沢症候群は普通に生活する分には決して危険な病気ではないのです。
But Hinamizawa syndrome is harmless if you live a normal life.
村人たちがお社様信仰を作り出し、厳しい戒律で自らを縛った頃はかなり危険な病気だったかもしれない。
It was a dangerous disease back when the villagers believed in Oyashiro-sama and bound themselves with strict rules.
でも、時間とともにそれは薄まり、今ではよっぽどのことがない限り発症することはないようです。
Those have faded over time, and now people rarely show symptoms unless something major happens.
あれだけの発症例があったのに
After that many cases?
ひなみ沢症候群の発症には特に精神の状態が重要なのです。
A patient's emotional state has a lot to do with how the syndrome develops.
普通に心穏やかに生活している分には何にも悪さをしない病気なのです。
As long as you live a normal life, there's nothing to worry about.
戦争という異常な状況下で精神が追い詰められた時のみ発症する。
So when one is under a lot of pressure, like during the war, the disease gets worse.
そうです。
That's right.
なに恐れることなどないのですよ。
Well, there's nothing to worry about.
初期の自覚症状はうつ状態に似た疑心暗鬼。
The subjective symptom of the initial stages is a paranoia akin to that in depression.
それを自覚したら、高野式呼吸法などにより心身のリラックスを図り、かつ9時間以上の睡眠を1週間以上とる。
Once you notice it happening, you can teach yourself to relax emotionally and physically by using my breathing method, and you should also get at least 9 hours of sleep a night over a 1-week period.
これで発症など未然に防げてしまうのです。
That's how you prevent it from worsening.
実際、私の指導下にあったひなみ沢出身兵士は一人も開始しませんでしたぞ。
In fact, of all the Hinamizawan soldiers under my direction, not even one died mysteriously. As he talks, grandfather started demonstrating the Takano breathing method and a bizarre exercise technique. According to him, this technique relaxes the body and lets blood and lymphatic fluid flow smoothly. As a result, you relax emotionally too. But the movements involved in the technique are so weird. I had to look away because my grandfather looked so silly. That was the one thing about his research that I felt bad about. Oh, grandfather asked me to do this exercise too. I don't want to make him sad, so I do it when instructed.
ならばいいんだがね。
I'm glad to hear that.
研究対象が元で死に至ってる医学者は過去にもたくさんいる。
Hideo Noguchi died in the middle of his research.
君も気をつけての。
So please be careful, okay?
だが研究に準じた彼らの偉業は死後も揺るがない。
However, Noguchi Sensei's great work is still acknowledged even after his death.
研究者としては本懐でしたでしょうな。
As a researcher, I'm sure that was his long-term goal. Grandfather tells me about Hideo. I keep wanting to say Hideo. Hideo. It's probably close. Noguchi often. He was born as the son of a poor farmer, but he studied hard and became a doctor. However, he was mistreated because of his background, so he left Japan. He moved to the United States. There he made many accomplishments as a researcher. He discovered a vaccine for yellow fever. Grandfather's background is somewhat similar to his, so he often said that of all researchers, he admired him the most. Hideo Noguchi died in North Africa. While he discovered a vaccine for yellow fever, he heard it wasn't effective on yellow fever in North Africa. He went there to research it, came down with the disease, and died. A researcher losing his life for his research. Sometimes that is a test of a researcher's courage. In that sense, Grandfather is very brave to visit Hinamazawa himself to gather information. He himself says he may have already been infected, although my grandfather estimates from ancient texts that the Hinamazawa syndrome was only a menace centuries ago, and now it's no different from the usual bacteria that share symbiosis with humans. Many people became ill with the disease during the war, but that was because they were in an extremely abnormal situation. In today's peaceful environment, it's almost impossible for a person to develop symptoms. He sounds very optimistic, but he never brought me with him to Hinamazawa, so maybe he isn't as optimistic as all that. However, since I live with him, there's a possibility that I'm already infected as well. But I'm not worried at all. That's because my grandfather's taught me that as long as I maintain myself physically and emotionally, I won't develop any symptoms. I know all about the horrible terminal symptoms of Hinamazawa syndrome, but I'm not overly fearful of them. Grandfather's enjoying his conversation with Mr. Koizumi. That's understandable. Mr. Koizumi told him some people showed great interest in his report. They even want to come over on Sunday, the week after next, to meet and talk with him directly. With the rapid advance in modern medicine, unexplored frontiers are steadily dwindling. Was it possible that Hinamazawa syndrome my grandfather discovered might be a new continent in the field? A new continent in the field. I've never heard it described like that. As like a new thing, like a new branch being called a continent, whatever. It'll be decided in 2 weeks. It sounds like there will be more than one person coming. And it also sounds like they're all important people in the society. They're all rich and famous, yet they aren't satisfied with just that. They all want to be involved with something that's worth an international award. This is a chance to gain assistance and sponsorship at the same time. I'll see you in 2 weeks. I'll make sure to be here. Good luck.
これもすべて小泉さんのおかげです。
Thank you very much.
本当にありがとうございます。
I owe you everything.
それは無事賛同者を集められてからにしましょう。
It's too early to say that. Let's wait until you find some sponsors.
その折にはぜひ秘蔵のワインを開けて乾杯といきましょうの。
When that time comes, let's have a toast with that treasured wine of yours. That was the last of their conversation. My grandfather kept his head bowed until Mr. Koizumi was gone. It sounded like he set up this great chance for my grandfather. So I bowed my head just like him.
聞いてたかい?
Did you hear that?
ようやくチャンスが巡ってきたよ。
Finally, there's a chance for me.
私のレポートに関心を持ってくれる人が現れたのだ。
There are people who are interested in my report.
聞いてたよ。
I know. I heard.
これでおじいちゃんの研究に協力してくれる人やお金を出してくれる人が現れるんだね。
Now you have people to fund you and people to help with your research.
まだそうと決まったわけじゃないさ。
Well, it's not set in stone yet. Although he didn't want to admit it, he had a good feeling about it. The research he had conducted all alone was finally about to gain recognition.
再来週の日曜日なの？
Sunday, the week after next.
忙しくなるぞ。
Quite. I'll be busy.
プレゼンテーションで第一印象のすべてが決まる。
Quite, I'll be busy. Their first impression depends on my presentation.
資料を読みやすく作り直したり、いや、人前できちんと説明できるよう少し練習をした方がいいかもしれない。
I have to rearrange my data. No, I probably should practice explaining things in front of people.
とにかく手落ちがないようにしっかりやらないとな。
Anyway, I have to make sure I don't forget anything.
資料の作り直しは大事だね。
Boy, it'll be a lot of work to rearrange your data.
おじいちゃんの字は読みにくいから少し大きめに書いた方がいいと思う。
Your handwriting is bad, so maybe you should write bigger.
とにかく忙しくなるぞ。
Anyway, I'll be busy.
再来週か。うかうかしていたらあっという間だ。
The next 2 weeks will go by fast.
そうだね。
You're right.
私もお手伝いするよ。
I'll help you too.
ホルマリンの容器とかのホコリも拭き取らないとね。
All the formalin jars have to be dusted.
あと丸まった資料の反りを直さないと。
Also-
絨毯の下に敷いて一晩も置いたら治るかな。
Also, we'll need to straighten our rolled up documents. God damn it! Why is baby Takano just so fucking adorable? And then you have and then when she becomes the lady that we know her as mostly throughout the story, fucking evil incarnate. I mean, I assume that's intentional, right? You're supposed to, especially here in the final chapter, you're supposed to feel that difference. It's supposed to make you feel things. I think I made mention of it in the title of the stream on YouTube VOD last stream. But this chapter so far, especially here at the beginning, has been all about humanizing Takano when and it's funny because I don't know if I've probably, this feels like something I probably said earlier, but it's just so funny that here towards the end of the story, Takano is a big major player in everything, and we're kind of wrapping up with her. And at the very start, I just thought Takano was going to be the most side minor of characters. I was like, who is this weird one? I called her out as weird. She was weird. I was right. But I never would have imagined that she was going to be the focus and so important as the story progressed. So it's been good. That's been good. That's been a good thing about this. In any kind of story, whether it be a mystery-leaning story or not, if some kind of work of fiction, you want something that you wouldn't have thought at the beginning to be a big, major, important factor later on. You know? Do you think leaving them laid out under the rug overnight would fix it?
やらなければならないことは山ほどだな。
We have plenty of things to do.
ミオ、手伝ってくれるかい？
Mio, could you help me?
もちろん。
Of course.
学校を休んでお手伝いする。
I'll skip school for it.
それはいかん。
No, you can't miss school. We laughed together, thrust our fists into the air, and motivated ourselves to work hard toward the week after next. Since that day, my grandfather spent more time in his study. It's not easy to create a report that you're going to show other people. Copying machines hadn't been invented back then, so everything had to be handwritten. He knows it somewhere, but he just can't remember where he put the data he needs. As for me, I have to make sure I have enough guest cups to serve tea, so I'm counting them. Do I have enough tea leaves? Maybe I should get something to go with tea. My grandfather knows nothing about these things. There's a whole list of chores to do. I need to clean the windows so the room will be bright. What else? The 2 weeks pass quickly while we busy ourselves getting things done. What a wonderful 2 weeks it is. I can finally feel that I'm actually doing something to help my grandfather with his research. I hope the day of the meeting will be a memorable one for my grandfather. I hope that day will be a beautiful and clear one. Just as I wished, the day is beautiful. Evening. My grandfather, having dressed formally, paced around his study nervously. I'm also in a beautiful dress. I've only worn it once before, at my piano recital. But I'm not nervous like my grandfather. His silly nervousness actually relaxes me. Are they here yet? Grandfather looked out the window. Then a black car stopped in front of the gate. Back then, a car was a luxury item. I don't think I had even one classmate whose family owned a car. So it only makes sense that the men coming out of the car look respectable. Grandfather and I ran out to welcome them.
ようこそおいでくださいました。
Welcome.
高野と申します。
I'm Takano.
今日は本当にようこそ。
Thank you for coming today.
お召し物をお預かりします。
May I take your jacket? I greeted them and filled the role we decided ahead of time. Though my being relaxed by my grandfather's slowness ended at that point. Both my grandfather and I were stiff with anxiety as we greeted them now that the moment was here.
はじめまして先生。
Nice to meet you, Doctor.
そしてはじめましてお嬢さん。
And hello, young lady.
いえ、お孫さんですかな。
Are you his granddaughter?
孫です。
Yes.
ミオ、ご挨拶なさい。
Mio, please say hello.
はじめまして。
Very nice to meet you.
高野美代と申します。
I'm Mio Takano.
賢そうな子ですね。
What a good girl.
本日は小泉先生の代理で参りました。
I'm here in place of Koizumi Sensei.
小泉先生は急な用事が入ってしまい、本日は出席をすることができなくなってしまいました。
Something came up and he can't make it today.
そのこと大変残念がっておりました。
He's very sorry.
そうですか。
I see.
それは残念です。
I'm sorry to hear that. The person who set up everything isn't here. My grandfather even had his treasured wine ready, just as I promised 2 weeks ago.
皆さんご紹介いたします。
Everyone, let me introduce you.
こちらは高野一二先生です。
This is Dr. Hifumi Takano.
高野先生は戦時中、満州の貿易研究所におられ、伝染病予防分野の第一人者として活躍されておりました。
Dr. Takano was a leading member of the Research Center for the Prevention of Epidemics in Manchuria during the war.
また、戦地での栄養失調、食糧難対策として、合成食品や合成種の研究に特に顕著な功績を残されました。
He made many advances in developing synthetic food and synthetic alcohol as measures against malnutrition and ration shortages.
よろしく。
Nice to meet you.
はじめまして。
Pleasure to meet you.
お邪魔いたします。
Thank you for having me, says Bureaucrat 3. The men are even older than my grandfather. They take off their hats one at a time to greet him. Their beards, expensive-looking canes, and glasses tell me that they're very high up in society. Grandfather bows to each of them.
それでは皆さん、どうぞ書斎へ。
Everyone, please, come into the study.
誇り臭い場所で大変恐縮です。
Please excuse the mess.
どうぞこちらへ。
Come in, come in.
ミオ、皆さんにお茶の準備を。
Mio, serve tea for everyone.
はい。
Yes. I wasn't nervous at all earlier, but now I think I'm the most nervous one. I'm not the one making the presentation, and I'm not the one being evaluated, so it's ridiculous that I'm feeling so nervous. I don't know if I should use that as my excuse, but I was so nervous that I knocked over the thermos I had filled to the brim with hot water and ruined the black tea I'd chosen specifically for this day. I apologized to my grandfather and started to boil water again. I just needed enough for the guests. By the time I had cups of tea and cookies ready, grandfather's presentation was at its key part.
血管もしくはリンパ管を破って脊髄へ侵入し、髄液を通って脳内に至るものと思われます。
It pierces the blood or lymph vessels and spreads to the spinal cord, and from there travels along the cerebrospinal fluid to the brain.
また、死後の解剖結果、脳炎を起こしたものを複数件確認しています。
I've confirmed many cases of encephalitis after autopsies.
類似の症状をもたらすウイルスは過去の事例を紐解いても数種類あり、その中でも代表的なものは
Eosinophilic meningoencephalitis is known to be caused by roundworm, and we predict its behavior to be extremely similar. Grandfather said, walking between samples in formalin jars and pointing to several as he gave his explanation. There are over 100 formalin jars in here with parts of brains in them. They were all very dusty, so I spent a few days cleaning them. I am rather proud to see the sparking jars all lined up like this.
ただし、これらのウイルスが引き起こす症状は多岐にわたります。
However, roundworms induce an extremely wide range of symptoms. A headache, narcosis, derangement, none of those are characteristic symptoms of roundworms. On the other hand, symptoms of Inamazawa syndrome are very specific to that disease.
それが喉を自らかきむしる自傷行為だとおっしゃるのですね。
You're saying one of them is to claw out one's own throat, yes?
さようです。
Exactly.
これについては死亡直前を知る兵士たちの目撃情報から分かっています。
Some soldiers witnessed it just before their fellows died.
この自傷行為は これまでに知られてきたどのような病状にもありません。
Such self-mutilation was never seen before in any disease.
ひなみ沢症候群独自のものです。
It only occurs in Hinamizawa syndrome.
また末期患者にしか見られない行為であることから、これは一部の感染症に見られるのと同じエクソダスであると考えられます。
Also, since that symptom was only seen with terminal stage patients, I believe that's a means of exodus, something we've seen before in several parasites.
感染者の体内で十分に成長し、幼虫を繁殖させた後、ウイルスは体外へ脱出し、次なる感染者を探すのです。
Parasites mature inside of an organism, reproduce, and leave the host and look for the next one.
ではその血液にはウイルスもしくは陽性が満たされているわけであり、
So what do you think about the fact that the cases were only seen in the soldiers from Hinamizawa?
貿易の知識のない現地の兵士がそれに触れていたならば、彼らも感染していた可能性があるわけです。
Even though other soldiers touched their blood, which must have been full of parasitic eggs or larvae.
にもかかわらず、ひなみ沢出身者以外の兵士に感染例がないことをどうお考えですか？
Don't you think there was a possibility of them getting infected?
これについては潜伏期間その他を疑ったのですが、
I suspected things like an incubation period, but since it was limited to people from the Hinamizawa region,
ひなみ沢という地域だけに限定していることから考え、現地の特殊な気候、その負荷があると考えられます。
I believe something such as the unique local climate must play a role.
また辞書で詳しく取り上げておりますが、ひなみ沢の古い土着の信仰から考え、
I'll talk about that in the next part, but the ancient indigenous beliefs of Hinamizawa have...
ありえないですよ、高野先生。
That can't be possible, Dr. Takano.
ウイルスに社会性があるなど聞いたこともない。
I've never heard of parasites behaving socially.
いえ、ですからこれこそがひなみ沢症候群の画期的な発見の一つでありまして、
Yes, well, that is one of the revolutionary discoveries in the Hinamizawa syndrome. The elderly gentleman mumbled to each other while pointing to the data, or at the data. With that, I finally realized things aren't going too well.
高野先生のご考説を賜りながら、先の資料を拝見させていただきました。
Dr. Takano, I've been reviewing your data while listening to your gracious presentation.
まず申し上げて、脳内に潜伏したウイルスが人間の思想をコントロールするなど、全くもってありえないことです。
First of all, it is simply impossible for parasites to control human minds.
人間の思考は極めて高度な神の芸術ともいえる脳で作られます。
Human thoughts are controlled by the brain, which is a work of art created by God.
また思想というものは人間の思考の中で
Oh, brother.
は非常に上位のものであり、現在の地球上においては人間にのみ許された高度な能力です。
Furthermore, ideology is an extremely advanced aspect of human thought. It's an advanced capability bestowed only to humans on this planet.
それに介在するウイルスがいるなど
Yet, you would say parasites intervene in that?
考えられませんよ。
Please, that's absurd.
同感です。思想とはつまり個より全体を優先した考え方とも言えます。
I agree. Ideology can also be considered a manner of thought that prioritizes the whole over the individual.
つまり社会性を維持する最前提条件なわけですな。
In other words, that's the most important prerequisite condition for a society.
それが遺伝子を残すこと以上の欲求を持たないウイルスごときに宿るわけがない。
There's no way parasites would be gifted with that, when their own demand is to pass on their genes.
生物学的にも言ってウイルス性の微細な生命体に社会性、新社会性が発見されたことは一度たりともありません。
In the field of biology, there has never once been a discovery of sociality or eusociality within parasites.
しかし脳内の生命体が宿主の行動に干渉するケースは非常に多く報告されており、
But there are cases of parasites interfering with the host's behavior.
高野先生は一つ誤解をされていますな。
You're misunderstanding one thing, Dr. Takano.
ウイルスが宿主の行動を支配する原理は常に生殖繁殖のためという極めて原始的理念に基づくものだけです。
The principle that drives parasites capable of controlling their host is always reproduction and propagation. It's only that primitive concept. Sorry, I got distracted by a notification. Okay. Even in the example used before of a rat infected with Toxoplasma gondii losing its aversion to cats. The altered behavior is simply a means to let their host be eaten by a better host in order to change hosts.
ハリガネムシに寄生されたバッタの受水自殺がいい例ですな。
That's just like a grasshopper infected with a horsehair worm drowning itself.
ハリガネムシは十分に成長すると水生となります。
Once a horsehair worm matures, it becomes aquatic.
その際、宿主であるバッタを水辺へ誘導して溺死させ、その体内から水中へ脱出する。
When that happens, it guides a grasshopper to the water and drowns it, then enters the environment it's adapted for.
その通りです。
Exactly.
私はひなみ沢症候群における自殺的な喉のかきむしりもそれに当たると考えまして。
The suicidal act of clawing out one's throat corresponds to that in the case of Inamazawa syndrome. For example, guinea worms escape the body by having the host scratch the affected area.
そうです。すべてのウイルスの目的は繁殖のため。
Indeed. Purpose of all these parasites is reproduction.
そんな存在が神の芸術とも言える脳に潜伏し。
For them to infest the brain, God's masterpiece.
いやいや、潜伏すること自体は別におかしいことではない。
No, infecting the brain itself isn't that strange.
寄生し、人間の思想に影響を及ぼすなんて、はっきり申し上げて妄言です。
But to say they infest and influence human ideology is frankly delusional.
いや、危険思想と言ってもいい。
In fact, that's a dangerous idea.
ひなみ沢という村が閉鎖的文化から独自の信仰を生み出したこと自体はそう不思議には思いません。
I don't think it's that strange that Inamazawa, an isolated culture, developed its own unique faith.
日本各地に散見するよくあるケースです。
There are actually many examples of that all over Japan.
だとしたら、日本中のそれらの文化は全てウイルスによるものなのですか？
So are you saying all of them were due to parasites?
それらは文化的なものであって、ひなみ沢の件に限ってはウイルスによるもの。
Or that they're all due to cultural reasons, except the one in Inamazawa, which was caused by parasites?
その区別をどう立証されたのですか？
How do you establish the distinction?
いえ。
Well...
ですから、現地で死亡したひなみ沢出身兵士の解剖の結果から、そうだと信じるに足る様々な。
As I said, in my autopsies on the Inamazawan soldiers who died in the war, there was sufficient evidence to believe...
失礼だが高野先生。
Excuse me, Dr. Takano.
信じるに足る臨床データだと語るには、少々先生の収集されたケースは少なすぎます。
I don't think you've gathered enough case studies to call it clinical data.
しかも、ご自身で言われたように、戦場という異常な状況下の話です。
Furthermore, as you said, it was during the war.
いえ、ですから。
No, I mean...
次の章で説明しますように、ひなみ沢症候群は疑心暗鬼と緊張、ストレスなどによる微妙なバランスが崩壊したときに。
As I explained in the next part, Inamazawa syndrome develops when one experiences suspicion, nervousness, and stress, and becomes emotionally unbalanced.
喉をかきむしるという特徴的かつ異常な自傷行為が複数件あったならば、何かの共通性があるに違いないと疑われるのもユニークかとは思います。
I think it's a unique approach to suspect some manner of commonality if there were several cases of unique and bizarre self-mutilation, such as clawing one's throat out.
ですが、だからこそ当てにならないのですよ。
Yet, that's all the more reason it's unreliable.
戦地という異常な状況下で、たまたまレアなケースが重なっただけのことなんです。
Maybe it was just a coincidence that such rare cases happened under abnormal circumstances like the war.
高野先生は重なった偶然を見てゲシュタルト的な構成主義にとらわれ法則性を見つけたように錯覚してしまったのではないかと考えます。
I believe you witnessed a convergence of coincidences and, trapped in a gestaltist view, deluded yourself into finding a pattern.
そうでないことを証明するには、ひなみ沢症候群の感染者に対する膨大な臨床データが必要です。
To prove otherwise, you would need an enormous amount of clinical data on Hinamazawa syndrome patients.
ですが、倫理的に考えてこりゃ、立証は不可能でしょう。
But ethically, that's impossible to prove.
出身者がたたりだと了解する行為はどちらかというと文化依存症候群の範疇です。
The natives' act of recognizing it as a curse suggests it's more within the realm of culture-bound syndromes.
それに対しウイルスによる意識支配を重ねられることは
And you think that is a delusional parasitic disease?
失礼だが、高野先生
Oh,
は
this is going to be Takano's breaking point here. This is the moment where she sees her her adopted grandfather get disrespected, and she's like, time to turn evil. I hate to say this, but I think you admire the beliefs of the Hinamazawans a little too much.
その結果、ご自身が文化依存症候群に取り込まれてしまっているのではないかと考えます。
And as a result, you yourself have been taken in by their culture-bound reactive syndrome.
いえいえ、神秘的分野を研究する人間にはよくあり得ることですよ。
Actually, that happens quite often with people who research more unusual fields of study.
我々も日々気をつけています。
We're trying to be careful ourselves. The more they talk, the paler my grandfather's face becomes. I was just stunned myself. We've never heard of parasites like that. That's impossible. It was just a coincidence, and there isn't enough data. The talk goes on and on. Every time grandfather says something, they dismiss it like that. Before he knew it, my grandfather could only hold his silence before their criticisms.
ただ、どんな発見も最初は理解されないものです。
Well, no revolutionary discovery is accepted at first.
高野先生の研究もそのうちの一つでないかと考えます。
Maybe this research of yours is one of those things.
当時、どんなにバカバカしいと思われていた研究でも、
Even if it's ridiculed at first, it may achieve recognition in later years.
その後、真実が解き明かされ、
That
評価
happens.
を改められるというのも、これまたよくある話です。
That happens all the time.
私は皆さんに比べれば素人です。
I'm just an amateur.
個人の研究家に過ぎず、一流大の出でもなければ学閥にも属していません。
I'm just a private researcher who didn't graduate from an elite college, nor do I belong to any academic clique.
もちろん権威や研究所へのコネクションもありません。
I don't have any connections with experts or research centers.
ゆえに個人の研究ではこの程度のことまでしか調べられないのです。
That's why this is all I can do.
果たしてひなみ沢症候群が真実なのか、
Is the Hinamazawa syndrome real?
それとも皆さんがおっしゃられるように私の妄想に過ぎないのか。
Or is it just my delusion, just like you all say it is?
それを確かめるためにお力添えをいただくことはできませんでしょうか。
To find out, I need your help.
もちろんこれが世紀の大発見になるならば一大センセーションを巻き起こすでしょう。
Of course, if this was the discovery of the century, it would create a major uproar.
何しろ人間の文化や思想は全てナノ単位の脳内生命体の意志によるもので、前頭葉は彼らを住まわせるだけの場所に過ぎないという。
After all, you're suggesting that human culture and ideology is all the will of parasites, and our frontal lobe is a place for them to live. What an audacious theory.
ひなみ沢症候群が存在し、その感染者が感染によってその親代様信仰というものに組み込まれることがもし立証できたなら、
If a link between the existence of the Hinamazawa syndrome and the disease carrier's belief in Oishiro-sama could be established,
地球上に存在するすべての宗教、いや文化国境さえもウイルスで説明できるかもしれないんですからな。
and it would be possible to explain all religions. No, all cultural divisions on Earth.
その話の壮大さはとてもユニークです。
What a magnificent and unique idea.
高野先生は我々のような人間にひっそりと論文を読ませるより、それで本を書かれて一般大衆に発表された方がよろしいでしょうな。
Dr. Takano, instead of showing people like us your essays in secret, you should publish a book about it for the general public. Damn. Grandfather looks at the ground, his fist trembling a little. But their words were far too cruel. I don't know anything about academics. I'm just a little girl. I don't know exactly what they're talking about, but Grandfather worked so hard by himself until today. But to prove his research and delve further into it, he needs sponsors. yet those sponsors are casting him away, calling his research a delusion. That's outrageous. Like asking which came first, the chicken or the egg. Besides, if his research was at the level those cheeky men want to see, he wouldn't need their help. But they're saying that they can't help him unless they see some results that are beyond the level of private research. In any field, doesn't research always start out with just a little idea? If you can prove its existence beforehand, then what's the point of researching it to begin with? If a wild idea can't be the subject of research, how do we gain any knowledge at all? But never mind that. When Mr. Kazumi came 2 weeks ago, didn't you say they were really interested in his research? Oh, damn. Was it all set up? Was it fake false confidence? Is that why he didn't show up here? He didn't want to face him? What's going on? This is the complete opposite of what he said. Yes. I think this is very interesting research. The human brain still holds many secrets.
この高野氏の論文は非常にユニークです。
Mr. Takano's idea is an extremely unique one.
特に優生学的見地からは無視できないものが感じられます。
It seems impossible to ignore, especially from a eugenics perspective.
人は神の子などでは断じてない。
Humans are not God's children.
人も進化の洗礼を受けた動物に過ぎません。
We are simply animals who underwent the baptism of evolution.
ならばダーウィンに従い、各地の環境に応じて進化には差が出てくる。
As such, according to Darwin, there will be differences in that evolution based on environment.
つまり、人類にはすでに優劣があるのです。
In other words, humans can be either superior or inferior.
国家としていかに優秀な血統を守り、より良い遺伝子を未来に残せるか。
As a nation, we must think how we can maintain good bloodlines and how we can leave good genes behind.
これを国策として掲げ研究せねば、来世紀において人類は致命的な序列を与えられることになるでしょう。
If we do not raise that as a national policy and research towards it, then by the next century mankind may fall to a fatal position on the hierarchy.
高野氏の研究は単なる感染症の域を超えるだけのポテンシャルを秘めていると言えるでしょうな。
Dr. Takano's research has the potential of encompassing more than just parasitic diseases. If the evil inferior humans we shouldn't let breed,
もし遺伝子によるものでなく感染症によるものであると解明できたなら、外科的手段によって構成が可能だということになる。
can actually be explained by disease instead of genetics, then it becomes possible to correct their behavior through surgery.
結果、我が国は未来に素晴らしい人間を残すことができるでしょう。
As a result, we can leave wonderful people for our future.
優生学的見地から高野氏の研究は早急に取り組まれるべきです。
From the eugenic point of view, Dr. Takano's research should get started immediately.
これは世紀の大発見になる可能性がありますぞ。
It's possible this could be the greatest discovery since Mons' invention of the lobotomy.
もし感染症疾患と個人の資質の因果関係が立証できれば、ノーベル賞どころでは済まんでしょうな。
If causality between infectious diseases and an individual's nature could be established, this would be more than Nobel Prize worthy.
小泉先生、この度の貴重な機会に深く感謝いたします。
Kozumi Sensei, thank you for giving us this chance.
高野くんは昔から一途で熱心な男での。
Takano-kun is a single-minded and passionate man,
だが人付き合いが下手くそでな。
but he is not good at dealing with people.
ずっと一人で研究してきたのだ。
He's been working on his research all by himself.
だが一人でできる限界を迎え、ようやく人に助けを求めることを覚えたんだな。
But now he's hit the limit of what one person can do and he needs help.
どうか先生方、高野くんの話に耳を傾けてやってください。
Please, everyone, listen to what Takano-kun has to say.
恐れ多いですよ先生。
Oh, you don't even need to ask, Sensei.
むしろこの度のご縁にこちらが感謝したいくらいです。
We are the ones who should be thanking you for this opportunity.
私どもとしてはもう協力させていただくことは前提です。
We're already willing to help him.
むしろ 学会での縄張り調整の方が今後の急務ですな。
In fact, the more urgent matter will be arranging jurisdictions within society.
このようなユニークな研究を世界に先駆けて研究できるとは。
I would like to thank you for giving me an opportunity to be involved.
この年になってこのような貴重な幸運に恵まれたのを感謝したいです。
In such a unique research project at this age. There was a knock on the door. The sliding door opened and the owner peeked in.
失礼いたします。
Excuse me?
お客様がお見えになっておりますが、お通ししてよろしいでしょうか。
There's someone asking for you. May I bring him?
客
Someone?
はて、どちら様ですかの？
Who could it be? The owner whispered into Kozumi's ear, and his face turned pale all of a sudden.
お通ししてください。
But please, let him in.
いやいやいや、私もお迎えに上がります。
No, no, no. I'll come greet him with you. As Kazumi stood up, two pairs of footsteps reached the door.
先生、
Sensei,
このようなところへお越しいただけるとは。
I didn't expect you to be here.
小泉君、ご無沙汰だな。
Koizumi-kun, long time no see.
今日はちとどうしても君にしておきたい話があってな。
I have something I need to tell you today.
このようなところへお越しいただけるとは。
Yes.
はい。体温ある先生の話とあっては聞かぬわけには参りません。
If you need to tell me something, I'm all ears.
何でもおっしゃってください。
Please go ahead. The old man known as Koizumi was not someone whose status could be taken lightly. Although he had retired, he was still powerful enough to wield great influence as a fixer. So from his meek attitude, it was easy to figure out what kind of person this man must be. The old man held onto his bodyguard's shoulder as he walked. He had an expensive-looking cane in his other hand. He couldn't even walk on his own because of his old age, but his intense, commanding presence hadn't declined one bit.
単刀直入に言う。
I'll get straight to the point.
君の友人の研究な。あれ、やめさせなさい。
Your friend's research. You need to put a stop to that.
は
Huh?
申しますと。
What do you mean?
小泉君、
Koizumi-kun.
ひなみ沢症候群は墓場まで持ってかなきゃならん。
He must take his knowledge of Hinamazawa syndrome to his grave.
あれに手をつけちゃならねえんだ。
Nobody should teach it.
あれを調べるとな、やぶをつついて蛇を出すかもしれん。
If anyone looks into it, well, if you poke a bush, a snake will come out.
しかも太くてでかい蛇をな。
A big, fat snake, too.
君がこのままガブリとやられるのを黙って見とるには忍びないのでな。
It would pain me to just watch you get swallowed by it.
ちょいと君の小耳に入れてやろうと思って今日は来たんだ。
That's why I'm here to give you some advice.
それの先生方にはお待ちいただいて。
Can your friends wait for a little?
どうだ、ちょいと向こうの部屋でわしと飲まんか。
So, how about it? You want to have some drinks with me in a different room?
はい。
Yes.
お供させていただきます。
I'll come with you straight away. Koizumi realized that he was being pressured. He didn't know which direction it was coming from, but clearly some authorities weren't comfortable with the research on Hinamazawa syndrome and were trying to stop him from supporting it.
小
Interesting.
泉君、分かっているかね。この研究はパンドラの箱だということを。
Koizumi-kun, do you remember the Marco Polo Bridge incident? Marco Polo Bridge incident?
全くのよまいごとですな。
This is utter nonsense.
本日私どもがお邪魔したのは、資料になかったそれ以上の客観的何かが開示されるかもしれないことを期待したからです。
We came here today expecting to hear a more objective side.
本来ならば本日お邪魔するにも値しない内容だったのを、小泉先生たっての願いということで義理を尽くさせていただいたまでです。
Normally we wouldn't come all the way here for something like this, but since Koizumi-sensei asked us, we didn't have a choice.
徒労ではありましたが、来て正解でした。
This really was a waste of time, but in a way it was a good thing we came.
あなたに適切なアドバイスをすることができるのですから。
We were able to give you some advice.
あなたは余生をこんなことに費やされるくらいなら、盆栽でも始めなさい。
You should take up bonsai instead of wasting the rest of your life on this.
いいですぞ、盆栽は。
Bonsai is great.
同感
Damn.
です。
I agree.
こんな書斎にホルマリンの瓶を並べていても不健康なだけですな。
It's not healthy to just stare at formula jars in a study.
しかし実にユニークな内容でした。
But it sure is a unique study.
あな
Or
たさえ
subject.
良ければ出版社の社長を紹介しますよ。
If you want, I'll introduce you to the chief of a publishing company.
大衆にはこのくらいの刺激があった方がウケるでしょうからな。
The general public loves things like this, you know? They aren't even trying to hide their hostility. They're laughing at my grandfather, denouncing him, and saying things to denigrate not only his research, but his personality as well. If they're simply trying to provoke him, any response would just be giving them what they want. Even in this very moment, grandfather tried to remain a noble researcher and a proud human being. He's no longer trembling. On the contrary, he apologized to them for taking up their time, and told them that he had no intention of keeping them any longer.
この論文はお返ししますよ。
We'll give this article back to you.
もっともこれを論文と呼んでいいなら学会もどれだけ気楽なことか。
That'd be so much easier if we could actually call it an article. One of the elderly gentlemen tossed it back at him. Grandfather couldn't catch it in time. The article he worked so hard on fell onto the floor, and the paper scattered all over on the carpet. The elderly gentleman left the study without even apologizing for it. Everyone else followed suit. As they left, they trod all over my grandfather's article. It looked like grandfather's expression didn't change, but I could see it warping. I could see the wall of research grandfather bore crunching and warping sadly. Damn. Dirty. I jumped. I grabbed onto the elderly gentleman's leg. I don't hate him. If I were asked if I hated him or not, the answer would be yes, but that's not the point here. What I really can't stand is his foot stepping all over my grandfather's article. Don't step on it! Don't step on it! Grandpa worked so hard on it, don't step on it! I just want to move the foot that's standing on his papers, but the foot doesn't move no matter how hard I push or pull, as if it's rooted to the floor. I felt someone grabbing me from behind. It was my grandfather.
孫が失礼をいたしました。
Please, excuse my granddaughter.
さあどうぞこのままで結構ですので。
Don't worry about this.
後片付けは私どもの方でしますので。
We'll clean it up. Don't! Don't step on them! I'm telling you not to step on my grandpa's article! My screams don't mean a thing to them. They completely ignored my screams. They continued to step on the papers and left the study. Only my grandfather and I remain in there now. My grandfather is still grabbing the back of my collar. I don't have any words left to say, only cries. My grandfather's determined not to show any emotion. He doesn't even open his mouth, so I have to cry for him. Just then, my grandfather slapped me in the face. That startled me. I'm crying for him, so why did he slap me? Then I understand. Grandfather is the one who wants to cry, but he's enduring, so I shouldn't cry either. I wiped my tears in my runny nose, then I silently turned my eyes to the papers on the carpet, just like my grandfather.
ごめんだ、ミオ。
Sorry, Mio. I don't understand why he's apologizing. I thought he was going to complain about their rudeness.
もっと私がしっかり研究できていれば、こんなことにはならなかったのに。
If I'd worked harder, this wouldn't have happened.
せっかく今日までミオがあれだけお手伝いをしてくれたのに。
Until today, you helped me so much.
それを無駄にしてしまって。ごめんな。
And it was all for nothing. Sorry about that. How courageous he is. Even after that disaster, he's still concerned about me. I shook my head and put my hands on the floor. I tried to gather up the papers, but then they began to fall. My tears are overflowing again, blurring the ink on the papers. These are all handwritten by grandfather. He was so happy that finally there was someone who understood his research. He was so happy. He spent all night writing these, but they stepped on them. They might as well have stepped on my grandfather's very soul.
私の研究がまだまだ足りなかったんだ。
I didn't work hard enough.
もっともっと研究を重ねていたならこんなことにはならなかったんだ。
If I had done more, this wouldn't have happened.
ごめんな。本当にごめんな。
Sorry. I'm so sorry.
おじいちゃんはもっともっと研究を重ねるからな。
I'll work even harder.
これくらいのことじゃくじけないからな。
I won't give up because of something like this. I don't know if he's saying that to me or to himself.
大丈夫。
Don't worry.
神様は見ておられる。
God is watching.
そして自分が評価されることを疑ってはならんのだ。
I have to believe that I'll gain recognition.
いつか必ずきっと評価されるから。
That day will come.
その日まで努力を怠ってはならんのだ。
That's why I have to keep working harder. Grandfather says that all the time. But I know the truth. God only plays with people's fate. He doesn't save anyone out of goodwill. That's why he let this happen to my grandfather, even though he's worked so hard and so humbly until today. That's why he let such a horrible thing happen to me when I was still an innocent little girl. Grandfather keeps repeating himself, but I know the truth. God exists. The existence Grandfather believes in is real, but there's no mercy to be found in God. He delivers unreasonable fates and makes us call it a challenge. Can't tell my grandfather that, of course. I asked God once more, like I did on the day of the thunderstorm. Why? Why can't you give my grandfather's effort and hard work the recognition it deserves? Grandfather told me that he'll gather up the papers, so I should put away the teacups. I nodded silently and put the teacups that hadn't even been touched onto the serving cart. As I pushed out of the study, Grandfather told me. He told me to close the door after I leave. I always close the door when I leave. He doesn't need to remind me, but that's what he wants, so without saying anything, I closed the door. Then, as I walked away from the study, I heard my grandfather sobbing. Tears filled my eyes once more. Sadness and disappointment. I almost feel angry with myself for not being able to do anything for him. Then I felt a cool breeze on my wet cheeks. The breeze was blowing in from a cracked open window. The curtain was flapping gently in that breeze. I heard the cry of the Higurashi. As I listened to them, I calmed down gradually. If I can ease Grandfather's pain by crying, I'll cry in his place. But that won't help. On the contrary, he started to cry because I did. I'm being useless here. I remember that day. I remember the reason why I'm alive now. If he hadn't come and saved me, I would have spent the last days of my life lying in the corner of the bathroom as a human-shaped piece of meat. Grandfather saved me. He gave me back my rights. The right to walk, the right to stand up, the right to wear clothes, the right to eat, the right to speak, and the right to think. In other words, the right to live as a human being. Grandfather took action right after he got the phone call from me. He found my house, and he found out which orphanage I was sent to, after struggling through the sloppily filled records of the public office. Then he saved me. Of course, he was working on his research then. He spent his precious research time on saving me, a perfect stranger. I vowed that if his heart failed, I'd rip my heart out and give it to him. But of course, his heart is fine. So he doesn't need a heart. He needs something else that's equally important. That's something only I can give him in this whole world. I clenched my fists and held them so tightly that my nails left marks. I now know what I'm supposed to do with this new life as Mio Takano. I finally know. I know the reason why the new me was born. I know the purpose of Mio Takano.
それは小さな胸に宿る
A big decision that inhabits a tiny soul.
人の命がもしも地球より重いなら
If my life is heavier than the earth,
私の小さな決意は
then my decision is heavier than the earth. Oh, damn, that's music. I thought I knew of my grandfather's greatness, but I actually didn't know the half of it. For me to be able to really help him, I have to reach his level. All my lessons lead back to my grandfather. There wasn't a single subject I could ignore. Right now, studying hard is what I can do for him.
教師生活をして長いが、君ほどたゆみなく勉学に勤しんできた生徒は見たことがない。
I've been a teacher for a long time, but I've never seen such a hard-working student.
かといって決して勉強のみに視野が狭くなることなく、社交性も身につけ、多くの友人を作った。
You've learned not only academically, but socially as well. You've made a great deal of friends.
勤勉なのは勉強することでしか至れない私の目標があるからです。
I have a goal which I can only reach by studying hard.
社交性をおろそかにしないのは孤独な天才があまりに無力であることを知っているからです。
Also, I know how powerless an isolated genius is. That's why I need to learn to socialize. That's not enough.
私はまだまだ自分の望む姿に至れていないんです。
I'm not even close to where I want to be.
大学に入るのなんて私にとっては単なる経過に過ぎない。
Entering college is only a step forward.
そこで何が学べるかなんです。
What matters is what I learned there. I'm not even close. I'm not even close to being able to help my grandfather.
先生は君を教え子に持てたことを誇りに思う。私立大でも国立大の医学部でも好きに選びなさい。
I'm so proud of you. You can go to Tokyo or Ochanomizu University or any college of your choice.
今の君にとって倍率など何の意味もない。
Nothing will stop you.
君にとって学ぶに値する学校であるかどうかだけが大事だ。
The most important thing for you is that the school will teach you what you want to learn.
願いを成就し望む未来を紡ぐ力。
To fulfill a wish and weave a desired
紡がれ
future.
る人の強さは意志の強さ。
The strength of a string is how strong your will
強き
is.
願いは必ず現実となる。
A noble and strong wish will come true. Do I have what I need to be able to truly understand Hinamazawa syndrome and help grandfather in his research? I don't need compromises or excuses. The heights I seek are lofty and precipitous. This isn't enough, not even close. My classmates are such idiots, acting as if they're winners in life just because they entered the school. A college is simply a place to learn what I need to know. If this self-proclaimed best school isn't worth my time, I'm not interested.
まさか最女のあなたが伝染病圏に来られるとは思いませんでした。
I didn't expect a talented woman like you to end up at this parasite research center.
あなたほどの方なら引っ張りだこだったでしょうに。
I'm sure everyone wanted you, huh?
てっきりもっと見栄えのいい研究に関心を寄せられると思っていました。
I assumed you're interested in something bigger.
私が学びたいこと、研究したいことが伝染病だからです。
I want to study and research parasites.
私は今日ここで学べる資格を得るために勉学に勤しんできました。
I worked hard to earn the right to study here. Aren't I qualified to learn?
そんなことはありませんよ。
Yes, yes, of course.
入学試験を第1位で突破したあなたを拒むはずもありません。
There's no reason why I would refuse someone who got the top score on the entrance exam.
ようこそ伝染病圏に。
Welcome to the Parasite Research Center.
嫌われがちな学問でね。
People usually aren't that interested in our field.
研究者はまだまだ少ない。
There aren't too many researchers who study it.
だから他の学問に比べて未知の分野が多いのです。
That's why there's still a lot of unknown elements compared to other fields. It's quite true. The study of parasites is a mysterious world. Or rather, it's an ignorant one. An ignorant world where the preconception that parasites can't possibly control humans pervades. And those ignorant people laughed at grandfather and stepped all over his article.
伝染病の世界にまだまだ解き明かされていない未知があります。
There are still many unsolved mysteries in the world of parasites.
私はそれを解くために、
I'm here to solve them.
それを解こうとする人の力になるためにここまでやってきたのです。
I came here to solve the people, or help the people who want to solve them.
実現の約束された願いはもはや願いとは呼ばない。
A wish that's guaranteed.
それはつまり
This is fate, not a wish. That is fate, not a wish.
私が紡ぐのは
I weave fate.
運命は個人だけじゃ
Fate
なく
has an absolute power to control people in the world, not just an individual. I missed the first sentence because I was taking a sip of water. Learning isn't enough for me. Oh wait, could I? No. I have to. I have to be able to. Learning isn't enough for me. I have to be able to research with my grandfather. And so, I don't ignore the means to gain the help my grandfather couldn't get. Grandfather's research isn't complete just when it's finished being written on a desk. I need the help of plenty of people to present it to the world, so his great work will be praised by many.
ええ、そうです。
Yes, that's correct.
当会は大学院の首席卒業生のみに入会資格を与えている同窓会組織です。
This is an association only top graduates of the Imperial University are allowed to join.
毎年7人の入会者のみしか認めておりませんので、一般的な同窓会組織と比べると小規模ですが、その結束は比べようがありません。
Therefore, as only 7 people per year are allowed to join, it's a small group compared to a normal organization of alumni. However, its solidarity is unrivaled.
そのような会へお誘いいただき、とても光栄です。
Thank you for inviting me to such a gathering. I'm honored.
私ごときでよろしければ、ぜひ末席を賜れればと思います。
I would like to take the lowest seat.
いえいえ、あなたほどの実績と経歴をお持ちの方を末席などとんでもない。
Oh, no, we can't let someone with such accomplishments and experience sit in the lowest seat.
先輩方もあなたを歓迎されるでしょう。
I'm sure everyone will welcome you.
会の名簿には現役大臣、高級官僚、大企業の社長や顧問などが名を連ねています。
A cabinet minister and several important government officials, company presidents, and company advisors will be here.
彼らはあなたを必要とし、あなたが必要とする協力を与えるでしょう。
They'll all need you, and they'll provide the help you need.
小泉先生もこの会におられたのですね。
Koizumi sensei belongs to this association, right?
私の祖父の親友だった方です。
He was my grandfather's best friend.
まさかここでまたご縁があるとは。
What a coincidence.
そうでしたか。
I see.
きっと小泉先生もあなたの入会を歓迎されることでしょう。
I'm sure Koizumi sensei will be glad to find out that you'll be joining. An isolated genius is a useless one. People live in society. We live in a society. Society is made up of connections between people. Nobody can ignore that. I do my best as an individual, but to gain the power that can't be achieved as a mere individual, I have to rely on my connections in society. It's all for one purpose. My only wish as Mio Takano. Yes, I can't spare any effort.
私の絶対の意志が絶対の未来を紡ぎ出す。
My certain conviction will forge a certain future.
邪魔できない。誰にも覆せない。
Nobody can interfere. Nobody can stop me.
サイコロの1なんて認めない。
I won't allow the die to roll a 1.
けなげな努力が偶然の事故だけで打ち消されるなんて認めない。
I won't admit that diligent efforts can be erased by a mere train accident.
すべてのサイコロを6にしてやる。
I'm going to make all the dice roll 6s.
サイコロを神になんか委ねない。不運になんか委ねない。
I won't entrust the die to God. I won't give in to luck.
神に祈るのは自らに努力を尽くさぬ愚か者のすることだ。
The only people who pray to God are people who don't want to work hard.
私は神などに委ねない。すべての結果は私が紡ぎ出す。
I don't trust God. I'm going to create results myself.
私の強固な意志が神にさえ介在できない絶対の未来を作り出す。
My strong will is going to create a certain future that God can't possibly prevent.
それは祖父が教えてくれた神になる方法とは違う。
This is a different way to become a god than the one my grandfather taught me.
それは生きながらにして神に至る方法。
This is a way to become a god while still alive.
それに気づいたとき、私はようやく解放される。
When I realized it, I became truly free.
それは両親を失った時の悲しい記憶。
Free from the
その後の
sadness.
辛い生活。
Free from the sadness of losing my parents and my miserable life after that.
そして論文を踏みにじられた時に見せた祖父の涙。
Free from grandfather's tears when his article was stepped on.
そう、私は神の域を超えるのだ。神の気まぐれなどに負けない存在に。
That's right. I'll be above God. I'll be in existence that God's can't even touch.
祖父の研究認めさせてやる。
I'll make people recognize grandfather's research.
それは私が望む未来。約束された未来。
That's the future I wish for. The future I promised will come to pass.
人々祖父の論文を奪い合って読み合う。
People will fight over grandfather's article.
かつてないがしろにされ踏みにじられたその論文をうやうやしく手に取って読むのだ。
People will respectfully read the same article as once ridiculed and stepped on.
たとえその日を待たずに祖父に死が訪れたとして
Even if grandfather dies before that day comes,
その程度の運命に私が泣くことなどないのだ
I won't cry over something like that
だって祖父はすでに私に教えてくれている
because he already taught me.
たとえ死んで土中に埋められた身であっても復活できることを
Even after being buried, one can be resurrected.
私が祖父の偉業を完成させ世界中が祖父を称える
I'm going to complete his great work, and the whole world will praise him.
その時祖父は復活を遂げ神となり永遠となる
Grandfather will resurrect and become a god. He will be eternal.
それは永遠の絆どんな交通事故にもちぎれない
That's an everlasting bond. A bond not even a train accident can break.
神がいくらサイコロの1を並べようとも
A bond not even a die that rolls a 1 can disturb.
両親を事故で失った日から私の人生はすべてサイコロの1だった
Since the day of the train accident, my die has kept rolling 1s over and over.
でも私はそれに負けずここまでやってきた
But I didn't give up. I kept working hard until today.
サイコロの目など私は超越する
I'll rise above the die.
サイコロの目は私が決める
I'll decide what to roll on it.
運命すらも私が決める
I'll decide my own fate.
くじけぬ絶対の意志で
I'll do that with my unshakable willpower.
診療所はいつ開くんかいね
When does the clinic open?
クーラーがついてるとええの
Is there going to be air conditioning?
来月にゃ診療開始って書いてあった
I heard it'll open next month.
したら若い先生だとええの
I hope there'll be a young doctor there. I hope, or not I hope, I was reading this, I was looking at the words I hope while I was saying this. This beginning of, so far all we've read of chapter 8 is trying to make a compelling argument for me to be like, damn, I get it, Takano, I fucking get it. And I may not agree with how you're doing things, but damn, if you don't have a burning desire and reason to like fucking do what you, be weird, be the weird little freak that you are, you know? Takano. Oh, Takano. What a character. What a character. I heard some old ladies talking amongst themselves when I was going up the stairs to the shrine. The Irie clinic is already completed, and it's waiting ready for opening day. The state-of-the-art equipment has been delivered, and the research is waiting to begin as well. Irie, too, is standing by in top form, and he's almost as passionate as I am about Hinamazawa syndrome. The Mountain Dogs, the counterintelligence unit to support and protect our research, are already stationed at a dummy company somewhere near Okinomiya. They are getting in touch with various public institutions. Everything is going well. The only thing to worry about would be the rumors about the Hinamazawa dam construction plans. There's a rumor that the Ministry of Construction is pushing through a dam project that will submerge all of Hinamazawa, but they're under pressure from several groups. None of my contacts have much influence in the Ministry of Construction, so things aren't going well. Even if applying pressure does work, there are other measures, so either way it'll come to a deadlock. I'm not being optimistic. I just know that's how it'll end. I will conduct research here in Hinamazawa. I'm going to accomplish that with my absolute will. That's why, even if God rolls a 1 on the die and says that he's going to submerge Hinamazawa, I will not be afraid. I won't entrust my die to God. I'm the only one who's going to pick up the die, and I'm going to roll a 6. I didn't come to the shrine to declare war on the god of this place. I came because I know that you can get a great view from up here. I walked by the shrine and headed to the spot I found last time I visited. It's the perfect spot for overlooking the entire village. The strong wind reminds me that I'm only at the starting line, and that there will be a headwind before I reach my goal. I looked over the village without faltering in the wind. Grandfather approached the syndrome from a medical point of view, but he also approached it from a folkloric one as well. The strange belief system in this village is proof that the existence of Hinamizawa syndrome was already known of even in ancient times. So it'll be extremely useful to research the history too. My grandfather hadn't been doing research for hundreds of years, of course, but this place has been here for hundreds of years, and they've been living with Hinamizawa syndrome for that long. Therefore, the beliefs created in this place and the legend itself can be considered the foremost researchers. It's simply stupid to just call them old folk tales or nonsense. I've been researching them slowly, but they are indeed very interesting. No wonder grandfather was intrigued by them. Hinamizawa syndrome has many fascinating sides to it. It's just a light. I think there's an extra A there. I'm gonna sneeze too. I'm holding it. I sneezed, but I think I muted in time. I hit the button just as I sneezed. Maybe like a nanosecond of sneeze came through. It's just like a kaleidoscope showing infinite light with ever a slight change in angle. It's so much fun to trace grandfather's research. Finding the same results as my grandfather reminds me that I am indeed following in his footsteps, which makes me very happy. The shrine is dedicated to Oishiro-sama, the guardian deity of the village, but this god the villagers worship is simply a delusion that is created by the parasites. When I solve their secret and announce it to the world, the god of this place will be no more. That's the moment I will take revenge on the one who put me through misery and tested my fate. That's it, isn't it? This isn't just about making my grandfather's dreams come true. It's also about getting revenge for my miserable life. She's got a fucking vendetta against God. This is some straight up JRPG shit where the final boss is gonna be like, for some reason, like Takano is gonna join hands with Rika and the rest of the after school group, and they're gonna battle a god, turn-based JRPG style. You know what I mean? It'll be just God. They will fight and take down God himself. Can't wait. I went back to the front of the shrine. There's an offertory box there, and I'm tempted to throw in some coins. But you normally offer coins to ask for mercy. I don't entrust my fate to God, so I don't need to give an offering. I'm going to unmask him. But until then, Orishiro-sama is a god. Okay, in that case, I'll show respect for now. He. As a declaration of war, I pulled out a 10 yen coin from my wallet. The 10 yen coin I found in the telephone booth changed my life. If it hadn't been there, my life would have ended then.
あの1枚の10円玉に関してだけは
I'm grateful at least for that 10 yen coin. I'm not grateful to the god of the shrine, though.
でもね
But
あの程度で私はあなたを許したつもりなんてない。
I haven't forgiven you yet.
そして私はあなたのご利益なんか期待せず、自分の努力だけでここまでやってきた。
I never expected anything from you, and I am here because of my own hard work.
今後あなたがどんな理不尽な運命を与えようとも、サイコロの位置を出し続けようとも、
Even if you keep playing tricks of fate or keep rolling a 1 on the die.
そんなものにはびくともしない。絶対的に強固な意志の力で。
That won't bother me.
私は私の理想を勝ち取ってみせる。
With my certain will, I'm going to get what I want. My grandfather will be praised and become a god because of the research I'll do in this place. I will defeat the god of this village and become an existence above even gods.
いつから私は神という言葉にこだわるようになったのかしらね。
Since when did I care about God, huh?
祖父がいつも神様を引用した話ばかりするからかしら。
Maybe because my grandfather often talked about him. He. Here, this is the 10 yen coin you gave me before. My debt's paid off now. You just keep clinging to your throne and tormenting people with your trials, while I fight my battles to knock you down from there. And so, I chucked the 10 yen I once borrowed from God into the offertory box. Eh? For a moment, I couldn't understand what happened. The 10 yen coin was supposed to fall into the offering box, but how can I explain this? That's not what happened. I aimed correctly, for certain. Who could miss an offertory box anyway? That's not it. Because a 10 yen coin stopped in midair, as if it got stuck in a spiderweb. Then it bounced back to me and fell by my feet. It was as though the offertory box had refused the coin. It's like, fucking, I don't want it. Take it back. Of course, an offertory box is to respect God. But what I did was challenge him. That means this is... I jumped. Because I thought I was the only one here. Anyone would jump when finding there's someone else standing there unexpectedly. Oh! How long has she been there? It's like she came out from the shrine. A mysterious girl standing on the other side of the offering box. She's wearing a shrine maiden uniform, so she must be one of the caretakers here. That's what I thought too. Oh, this is getting interesting all of a sudden. But there's something else about her. As if this hasn't had many, many, many interesting moments so far. Not only in this chapter, but this whole story. She's not just one of the shrine caretakers. She is the shrine itself. Because the girl is staring into my eyes. No, she's glaring. I smiled back fearlessly. I think she heard my words of challenge. I think she heard my words of challenge to God. She's wearing that expression on her face because of that. The words came out naturally. You are the god of this place, aren't you? The girl didn't nod, but I took that as a yes. What a contradictory feeling. I'm rejecting the god of this land, denying its very existence. Yet I don't doubt this girl is that god. The girl opened her mouth to speak. A strong will reinforces fate. That's right. That's what I say to myself often. I've never said that to anyone or quoted it from anything. So, under normal circumstances, I should be surprised to hear this girl say that. But this girl isn't human, so I'm not surprised. I replied to her. God throws the die of fate and has fun with people, depending on what he gets. But people have willpower. The stronger the willpower, the less chance of being bound by the results of the die. You see? People can gain a power that's strong enough to fight fate by working to their limits. Yes, I understand that very well. An unshakable conviction defeats the die of fate. That's right. That is mankind's revenge against the gods who toy with them by dice roll. The hymn of those who would slow the gods' interference and forge their own destiny. Know my divinity, and that I earned this day through effort after enduring all misfortune. He. Spiteful laughter flowed out of my mouth, but the girl's face displayed a strong will of her own. Her expression didn't even change a bit. I understand very well. No matter how many times we repeat, our fate doesn't change. That was all because of your strong willpower. That's right. A strong will reinforces fate.
いかなるサイコロの目にも動じない。
That fate, so empowered, isn't bothered by the result of a die.
それはすなわち絶対の未来。
That means it's a certain future.
それを幾百年を生きる僕たちでなく人の身であるあなたが知るとは。
You, a human, found that truth before us gods who have been living for hundreds of years.
認めますです。
I admit it.
あなたは限りなく神に近い場所にいる。
Your existence is close to that of a god.
それは光栄。
I'm honored. He. The girl glared at me with her eyes half shut. No, it was more like she was proclaiming something to me, while displaying her own strong willpower.
僕
あ
はなたに負けない。
I won't be defeated this time. Damn, we're seeing her with a fucking backbone all of a sudden?
かつて僕たちはどう戦ってもあなたに勝てないと思った。
We always thought we couldn't win against you.
だから僕はあなたに屈した。
That was why I surrendered.
地に落ち、輪廻の中を這いずりながらみすぼらしく生きた。
I abandoned hope and crawled around the wheel of life.
でもあの子は気づきましたのです。
But then I learned.
信じる力が運命を切り開く奇跡を起こすと。
The power of belief can cause a miracle that forges your destiny.
私の強い意志が作り出す運命。あなたの強い意志がそれを打ち破る奇跡を起こすというわけ。
Are you saying you'll cause a miracle using your strong will that will defeat the destiny woven by mine?
道理ね。
That's logical enough. Because that's the law of this world. A strong will can make a desired future possible.
僕たちは
We
あなたの意志の強さに負けないのです。
won't be defeated by your will.
古き神の座に執着するのも大いに結構。
That's fine. So you insist on being an old god.
あなたの意志が私の意志に勝てるか試してみなさいな。
Try it and see if your willpower can defeat mine.
神は人を試すが人が神を試してはならない不条理。
God tests people, yet people aren't allowed to test God.
だからあえてあなたを試してあげるわ。
So I'm going to test you here.
お前の意志の強さが私の意志の強さに勝てるかどうかを試してごらんなさい。
See if your willpower can defeat mine. Come on, go ahead, try it. That's clearly a declaration of war from me to God. This is the beginning of my revenge towards God, who put me through so much misery. And this girl, this God, is accepting my challenge directly.
僕はあなたに比べてあまりに非力だけれども。
I'm not as powerful as you are.
あなたに比べてあまりにできることが少ないけれど。
I can't do as many things as you can.
たとえ僕の意志の強さがあなたに及んだとしても、それぐらいでは覆せないくらいに圧倒的な力の差ではあるけれども。
Even if my willpower is as strong as yours, you're still more powerful than I am.
そうね。私は圧倒的な力を得た。
That's right. I've gained an overwhelming power.
その力を得るために今日までどれほどの強い意志を持ち初心を貫徹してきたか。
You have absolutely no idea what I had to go through to gain it.
貴様ごとき小娘では私に指一本触れることもかなわないでしょうね。
You can't even touch me.
分かってる。
I know.
あなたの強大さは分かってる。
I know how powerful you are.
それに比べて私や私の仲間たちの力はあまりにか細いかもしれない。
Compared to yours, the power my friends and I command is insignificant.
でも私は諦めないことを選ぶことができる。
But I can choose not to give up.
サンズの河原で永遠に石を積み続けるように。
I won't admit
あ
my
なたの
loss.
サイコロに1が並び、私のサイコロに6が並ぶその日まで決して負けを認めず諦めない。
I won't admit my loss. I won't give up until the day when your die rolls 1 and my die rolls 6.
気が遠くなるほどの長い時間、 あなたに屈しないことで意志の強さを示してみせよう。
I'll prove the strength of my willpower by not surrendering to you for eternity.
そして河原に石が積み上がった時、私たちはその川を越えることができ、あなたの前に対等な存在として現れるでしょう。
Stacking up stones on the riverbed will allow us to cross the river and appear before you as an equal.
その時こそこの長きにわたる運命の戦いに決着がつく。
And that's when this long battle of fate will come to an end.
ならば結構かかっておいでなさい。
Fine, come on then.
どちらの思いが強いか。
We'll see who has the stronger will.
強かった方が未来を作る。
Whoever has the stronger conviction will create the future.
強かった方の望んだ未来が訪れる。
The future desired by the stronger conviction will come to pass.
私の未来を一歩も譲らない。
I will hold my ground.
その未来では祖父の偉業は称えられ神となり、かつて私を不幸にて試すような真似をした神に対して復讐をする。
In my future, my grandfather's great work is praised, and he becomes a god, and I take revenge on God for testing me by making me go through such misery. He. Ah, ha, 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 ha. Stupid little god. I'll show you.
貴様、神の座から引きずり下ろしてやる。
I'll drag you down from your pedestal.
かかってこい、この
Bring it on! Oh, I love the idea that, like, she's like, there's like some random passerby that don't see Hanyu, the ghost of Hanyu, and then like they're like, what the hell? She's just screaming at nothing. Oh, chapter 8 title card. God, this music goes so fucking hard too. That was honestly probably like a huge long prologue basically to chapter 8, where we get the backstory of like Takno. And now we're actually in it. Oh, it's the one. It's now it comes. All right, we'll watch it. That's fine. Well, shit. We are... Oh, that's the prologue. Yep. The prologue achievement just popped up there. Holy shit. Oh, dude, I am so fucking pumped for this final chapter. All of a sudden now, even more. Oh, the stakes are there. The stakes are present. The challenge has been set. It's fucking Takano and her belief that she is a god versus the actual spirit of Oishiro-san and the god and Rika and the rest of the fucking club versus fighting time. It's actually so dope. I'm so excited. We're on the final chapter. I'm ready for it. This is gonna be interesting. Like I said, the stakes have been set for the two of them. And like I said, this prologue was interesting. Like I said, really added, I don't want to say necessary or anything, but very much fleshed out all right, here's why Takano is the way she is. You know? She essentially feels like society, the world, and then, as she said multiple times, God themselves did her wrong and fucked her life over constantly. And as she said, constantly she was rolling ones. Or God was rolling ones for her, right? And so she's like, I not only am I going to repay the person who saved my life, the person she then deemed her grandfather, I'm going to pay back, since he was cast away and laughed at for all of his research. I'm going to make sure that he is recognized as a god himself, and also myself, I will also rise above a god and get what I want, kind of thing. I'm excited. Can't help but be excited. Can't help but clap. Finally, we are finally back. Unless a disaster happens, we should be back on the Tuesday and Saturday Higurashi schedule. So we should be streaming next Tuesday, so 3 days from now. And then that should, unless things obviously change or schedule conflicts pop up, that should be the same. We should do Tuesday, Saturday, until we finish the chapter 8 here, the story. So yeah, I'm pumped. I'm gonna head out. It's really just barely the end of evening or so, however you look at that. I'm gonna head out. I'm taking the night with me, partly why I wanted to stream during the day here. So I hope you enjoyed watching. I hope you're just as pumped and excited as me. I will see you in the next Higurashi stream. As far as tomorrow, I should be streaming at some point tomorrow. We only have a few games really going at this point, but that's kind of by design, because like I said, I really want to finish Cyberpunk this month. Also, we have Crash Bash 200% challenge going on. That should be interesting. But I don't know if we're doing that tomorrow. I don't know what we're doing. And then there's the final bit of DLC to Control, but I would not be surprised if I wait till maybe even closer to the end of this month to do that. We'll see. I'm heading out. Enjoy the rest of your day. Enjoy the rest of your night, or whenever you're watching. I will see you hopefully in another stream. So until then,